Doobie-doo. Dio Ortega, you got first. ND, you were a close second. But it's good to see you guys. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. You ready to have some nightmares? I'm ready to dish them out. I'm doing great, guys. Sorry for the little bit of a delay here as far as getting the stream started. Got caught up with a few things. Dandelion just sat down on the porch. Is it storming where you're at? Angel wants me to read some Marvel Zombies. That does sound pretty cool. I hope everybody's body is ready and willing. Marco, I don't know if this is the best place to sell those. You could try though. See how it goes. ABG, hey, good to see ya. You're leaving me for Mr. Nightmare, that's okay. We're all just one large organism anyways of spooky stories. Luis Castillo with the $1. Thank you. You get nightmares? Yeah, I've heard people say they fall asleep to the stories and then it sort of becomes... They might experience some lucid dreams of sorts, or the stories themselves integrate themselves into the dreams. Mr. Haunted, welcome, my friend. With the $2 says, how's it going, dude? It is going well. My voice sounds extra raspy. Yeah, I sorry, I don't mean to blow out your ears there. Read you a bedtime story, that is my intention. You guys are in bed, ready to rock and roll, ready for some stories. Yeah, today we've got some good ones, some spooky ghost stories, paranormal. Jensen, welcome, my friend. Actually, Jen, I'm gonna make you a mod. Just because Jen has been in the gang for a while now and I appreciate it. Now you've got all those superpowers that mods have. I hope it doesn't go to his head. Connor McCutcheon with the 2 says, it's spooky out here tonight. I'm so hyped. It is. It's spooktacular. That's spooktastic. Tammy, last day of high school tomorrow. This is an epic way to celebrate. Absolutely. I hope it goes well for you. Miss Bellatrixa, what is up? Hey, a member. I've got some good news for you guys. I've added a few additional custom emojis for those who are members. So I know that's kind of like the greatest news you've heard all year. And it's flooding your body with little happy chemicals. But take it as you may, and be careful with it. Those emojis can get dangerous. ABG, you heard my voice in a Tats Top video and got hooked. That's awesome, yeah. I was doing a lot more collabs back in the day. And honestly, I feel like I need to get back into it because it's kind of what had gotten me to where I am. Emil Kiergaard, how do you donate on YouTube? So down in the area where it says say something, there's a little, below that, there's a little money sign. And that's Super Chat. And you can donate using Super Chat if you so desire. Do not feel inclined to, because I'm going to be recording these stories anyways. We're doing it up either way, so truly no big deal. You're blasting Old Town Road while listening to this. It's good to know. Also, Miss Bellatrixia, yeah, that emoji with the skeleton there. I need to take another gander at that, because it looks like it's not really super visually apparent, but I promise these emojis will get better. Cortez, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad if you can't donate. I mean, donations, it's really just whatever you want, you know what I mean? It's like, it's definitively not mandatory within the donation, the sort of live streaming realm. It's really just for those who feel comfortable and have taken care of they and theirses and want to help out. No worries. Would love to see you collab with the Creepy Fox. He's a pretty cool narrator. Not sure if he still uploads. Oh yeah, I remember seeing this channel all the time. Lucy's sending her emoji money. Thank you, Lucy. Emil Kiergaard. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he said you sent some kroners my way, and I have 20 of them, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Definitely at me if there's any message you'd like to attach to that. I'd love to read it. Millie Lady, you want to hear some dark web and chat room stories? Chat rooms definitely seem to would be an awesome direction to go. But I think dark web has essentially run its course here on YouTube, and I don't think YouTube is a big fan of it anymore, which is unfortunate, because it was one of my favorite kind of stories to hear. But yeah, guys, be sure to hit that like button if you haven't, if you're just rolling in. We're just going to be chatting here for maybe another 10 minutes or so until everybody kind of gets nice and cozy. Home Alone stories, oh yeah. Me and Macaulay Culkin. Rudibu says, my day is complete. I look forward to this like I look forward to Fridays. Let's read. Not only your channel is awesome, so are your listeners. You have a following of morbidly cool people. That's good to hear. They are really cool people, and if you guys are part of the Discord, which is, everything's linked down below if you want to follow on social media, Discord, the podcast, all that kind of stuff is down below, but if you have Discord, you can join that and chitty chat with everybody, which is amazing. Horrors Harlot with the $5 and the black heart. Thank you, Horrors. Thank you very much. And Mike Mooney with the $2 says, one of my favorite YouTubers. You're the man. Thank you, Michael. Try my best. Maybe I could collaborate with Logan Paul. That's a possibility. Maybe he's in the need for some spooktastic stories. I'm always curious about, like, really big YouTubers, like who they are into watching, you know? Like, if they watch channels that have like 5,000 subs or even like 100,000 or less. I assume they probably do. Horror forum stories like 4chan, Reddit, and spooky Craigslist stories. Love you, by the way. Love you. Thank you. Oh yes, thank you, Jensen. He linked the official Let's Read Discord. If I collab with LP, you'll quit. You'll quit your job and join us. You just sexted me a picture of zombie Spider-Man. Let me check. That sounds like a real good experience. Whoa, Jenny H with a huge 20. Buccarone says, thanks for the endless entertainment, buddy. Absolutely, Jenny. Thank you. There's Zombie Spider-Man. I got it. I got that DM on the Instagram. It's probably the best place to reach me if you guys... I can't say I respond to everything, but believe me, I'm pretty much a no-lifer when it comes to stuff. I mean, I do stuff here and there, like go to the gym or hang out with friends and work on videos and that kind of thing, but I mean, I'm just like every other millennial under the sun. I got my phone attached to my hip at all times, and all those DMs from you guys showing your love definitely helps me. It keeps me away from being alone with my thoughts. Mr. Nightmare. Normally I don't collaborate, but would you be interested? I have a feeling that... Let me check here. I definitely would be, but I have a feeling that that's not the Mr. Nightmare we're speaking of. Yeah, that's a Mr. Nightmare with 7 subscribers. You tricky dog, you. I was gonna say, there's no way. Fake Mr. Nightmare in the chat. Robin with the 20 kroner says, hey, thank you, Robin. Robin, I don't know if I messaged you on Tinder. No, I'm just kidding. I messaged you on Twitter, and a buddy of mine, I know I had kind of talked about trying to figure out this whole like audio codec thing and that kind of situation, and of which I obviously very much appreciate. If anybody, you know, if that sort of mystery gets figured out, because that would be dope. But I also kind of feel like it's probably a difficult thing to dive in, because I remember you were talking about browsers, and I kind of think it is a codec specifically for browsers, and maybe Discord is kind of like a browser or something like that. But a friend of mine, or my roommate actually, is working on a music video, and he's taken a lot of like cool footage when it comes to like him walking through the woods, but a lot of his shots are kind of like long and lingering, and as you know, most music videos are kind of exciting with various graphics and that kind of thing. So I just messaged you on Twitter in relation to the possibility of editing that music video if we were to send you the footage, and you would just have, you know, complete creative freedom, because I have a lot of trust in you, my friend, and I believe you could come up with some pretty amazing stuff. You can just have fun with it, you know what I mean? Wherever the song takes you. But thanks for joining the stream. Thanks for donating. Miss Bellatrixa also with the 2 Aussie says, do it, let's read. I'm doing it. Doing it big. Did I do any video on Area 51 FBI? You know, we just did an Alien video. Robin actually edited that, and it turned out amazing. I was so impressed with his capabilities as far as editing and visual effects and that kind of thing, and it was such a cool opening for the 500k subscriber special. So if you guys haven't checked that out, be sure to go check that out, because it's a good time. And if you're into aliens, I actually did really enjoy that a lot of the alien stories had very similar experiences, you know, like loss of memory and sort of, you know, just being experimented on, and different scars appearing after they were gone, and just all this sort of interesting stuff. Tammy with the 2 Buckaroonie says, love your channel, this community is awesome. Yeah, everybody's super supportive. I would say this community is very similar to maybe even like the ASMR community, if you guys are familiar with that, where people are super chill and just kind of want to have a good time, you know. Sawed off. If you win the lotto, you keep me in mind. I appreciate that. Yeah, no worries, you know, we're just here to have a good time, read some spooky stories, and honestly, this is just a fun way for me to interact with fans and stuff, because I'm going to be recording anyway, so I'm like, well, I might as well stream it. I did some... This is going to be a funny story, but so I've been looking for basically a microphone that works almost as a headset for streaming, but at the same time is able to capture like a really solid quality audio that is very similar to the actual narrations, where it captures sort of the bassiness and you know, just the general tone and quality. But there's all these little things that you kind of have to add afterwards, so you can get rid of the background noise and, you know, turning up little things, and that to find a headset that matches that, especially like a gaming headset, it's almost next to impossible. So what I ended up doing was kind of jerry-rigging like my headphones with like a book lamp clamp, and then like you know, a lavalier mic. So I have a $20 lavalier mic from Amazon on my head right now. And my thought was, but it was still kind of picking up a bit of a scritchy, scratchy noise, you know, and me being kind of a perfectionist when it comes to like the audio aspects, like I really wanted to see if I could eliminate that. So I had purchased another lavalier mic that was wireless, because I thought maybe it was the wire that was kind of creating a sense of interference as it was sort of jostled around, as I have a stand-up desk here that might bounce off my tum-tum or, you know, whatever as I move around. And that did not work, and it actually was way, way worse quality. Very, very disappointed in that one. And then I got what was called a Mod Mic 5. Now, funny story is I ordered that off of Amazon, and it was sent to me today. And they ended up accidentally sending me 2. So that was really funny, as I've never had that happen before, where I ordered something off of Amazon and they send you 2. Because it's just like, oh, okay, I guess this is sweet, you know? But yeah, so I ended up getting it set up, and then it sounded worse again. And it's supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be, you know, like a full-on, you know, studio quality microphone. They say they advertise it as or whatever. And I watched some videos, and it seemed that people were pretty satisfied with it, but I don't know, it really did not work for me. And so that was sad. So I went back to my more normal lavalier mic that I'm using right now. Messed with a little bit of settings, actually turned the gain up a little bit, and you know, it doesn't sound too bad today. So I don't know, if hopefully down the road we can get some good filters going or something, and just get that crisp, clean, perfecto audio going, you know what I mean? Hey, Miss Molly in the building with the 5 buckaronis says, Jolie Poo, hello, I bought some of your merch. Thank you, Miss Molly. Thank you so much. You'll have to, when it arrives, you'll have to model it for us so I can put it on Instagram. I'd love to promote that. That'd be awesome. But thank you for buying merch. If anybody else wants some merch, feel free to dig down below in the description. Mr. Wheatweg with the 229 says, hey, will you ever do a kind of face reveal? Yeah, if you go to Discord, my face is one of the pinned, there's quite a few angles you got there, including video as well, on the pinned messages in Discord, so it's a little bit of a motivation to join over there if you would like to see me and all my glorious mustaching havings. Ren Tingen with the $1, thank you, Ren. And Emil Kiergaard with the 20 kroners says, I love your scary stories, 20 kroners around 3 buckaroonies. Good to know, thank you. I appreciate that. Kroner sounds almost like a pastry item of some sort. Typically toxic. Welcome, my friend. Well, guys, I have been rambling on. My face isn't the one in the live stream thumbnail. You're getting catfished. It's a hard catfish. You think I'm just a space skeleton and I show up and I'm an actual human. It's very sad. Chris, you made a Reddit account to submit a story. That's good. I hope more people make Reddit accounts and join on. Keep those stories coming. You might get to hear it here in some future true subscriber stories. Angela Green with the 2 says, more 3+ vids, you're awesome. Oh, like 3+ hour videos. Definitely more. I usually do a promotion of the podcast, which is usually over 3 hours, like once a month, on the YouTube channel. So definitely keep an eye out for that, for sure. A show. But yeah, guys, a little bit of rambling on my end. I guess we'll jump into these paranormal stories here. This first one is called, I Think My Depression Attracted Ghosts, Demons to My Home. Which definitely seems to be a bit of a commonality I've noticed. So this music here, in case you guys were curious, is no copyright, chill, lo-fi hip-hop beats from the no copyright music area, in case you're into it and want to check it out. We're going to be stopping that and switching over to the amazing Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse and his dark ambient musings. Just let me know if you want me to turn the music up a little bit or anything that you think would be necessary for adjusting in the audio, because we want to get that crisp, clean, and perfect. Michelle G with a huge $25 donation says, you have a great voice for narration. Thank you for your time and energy that you put into these videos. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. And I really appreciate you guys' positive feedback when it comes to essentially what I do here on YouTube, and reading and constantly just reiterating to me that I'm heading in the right direction with what we're doing here in narration. So I really appreciate that. It gives me a lot of confidence boost to continue giving you what I've given you here with all the nice long spooky tapes. Prostitute whores, yeah. I feel like every experience they've had is pretty terrifying. Spoopy time. Soup time. This happened in my early teens when I was 13 in 2009. And at the time I was really depressed due to issues with my father. I would constantly listen to heavy metal and death metal, and at one point wore Slipknot shirts with pentagrams on them. I was a full-on edgy teen. My room would be decorated with my art, and admittedly I had a large painting of a demon that I personally painted, and now all this setup will lead to my point. Fast forward a year into my depression, and my mother is trying to get me through my emotional illness, telling me to dress in brighter clothing and to listen to different music and get rid of my very dark decorations. By dark, I mean demonic decor and pentagram t-shirts. I was a skeptic at the time, still am, but used to be stubborn and even more reluctant to believe. She would yell at me saying, "If you keep being like this, you'll attract negative energies to our house, or even worse." I would usually dismiss this as my mother not wanting me to Oops. Oh yeah, we need someone in charge of mistakes. Oh jeez. It takes so long to get over sicknesses sometimes. It's so frustrating. Like, you think you're done and then there's still something lingering deep in your lungs. Angie Arts with the $1. Thank you, Angie. I usually would dismiss this as my mother not wanting me to be depressed and a metalhead teen, but that soon would change. About 2 months later, the first encounter happened. I was sitting in the living room of the apartment we lived in. Now, these apartments had sliding doors right in the living rooms, which led to small back porches. My computer was situated next to the sliding door. So 14-year-old me was sitting by the door, and the couch was just to the left of me as my mother watched television. The sliding door was propped open because my brothers had gone out the day. Oh boy. This person has not put, like, any periods in between sentences, so this is going to be hard to make it sound like a legitimate story. Angela Green with the 5 says, lost my brother, my hero. I've got me through some bad headspace, by the way. Don't turn up music. Okay. Thank you, Angela. I'm so sorry to hear about that, and I hope that we can help you through any sort of trying times here. Okay, let me try to decipher what this person said, because they have like full-on paragraphs, but like almost every paragraph is just like one long sentence. It's like hard to... Like, that's like my biggest pet peeve, is when people type out stories and it's just like, what the fuck were they even thinking? And the couch was to the left of me. My mother. My mother watched television. The sliding door was propped open because my brother had gone out the day. Oh, had gone out. Okay. The sliding door was propped open because my brothers had gone out. The day was a regular dry and windless day in Arizona when, all of a sudden, the window blinds swung inwards wildly as if a big gust of wind had blown them. I got up and looked and closed the sliding door, thinking nothing of it, even though there was no wind. But my mother had noticed and said, "Zuna, did you see that? It was not the wind. Sitting right next to the door and felt no wind." She dismissed it soon after, but she was highly suspicious. But this isn't the only thing. Fast forward a week later, and me and my family are in the... My familia... Fast forward a week later, and me and my family are in the dining room area situated next to the living room and the kitchen, as it was a small apartment. Now, for context, the kitchen is a small hallway space consisting of the stove, fridge, sink, and a small pantry with a sliding door. Now, we were eating dinner when all of a sudden the pantry doors fall down and hits the kitchen countertop. Now, me not wanting to give my mother the satisfaction of agreeing that this might be supernatural, chalked it up as coincidence, thinking the door just broke and the wheel on it broke off the track. But when I went to set the door back up, I found the door intact. The wheel was just fine, so in order for it to fall, someone would have had to pull the small wheel down to unhinge it from the track. This had me slightly scared, but said nothing. Fast forward to the night of the same day. We were already in bed when I heard my mother scream. I was so startled that I ran into her room and asked what was wrong, and she explained that she had covered... Oops. Angela Green with the 2 says, sorry, supposed to said you have. No, yeah, thank you so much, Angela. That's okay. Yeah, that makes me feel good that I can... Honestly, yeah, when people say I helped them through a tough time, that's... It's sort of something that I never realized would be, of such benefit. So it makes me feel really good that I'm able to be via the voice or the stories or just anything in between, just to help people through, you know, this thing we call life. And she explained that she had covered herself in her blanket to cover up from the cold when she felt the sheets tighten around her legs, and she felt as if though a pair of hands were grabbing her. I guess at this point anyone would have started to believe something was up, but not me. I was still skeptical and chalked it up to her tossing and turning in her sleep, making the sheets tighten. I quickly went back to bed, ignoring my mother's pleas to toss my demon memorabilia and pentagram shirts. Fast forward 3 days. I had been in my room all day sick from school and had been bragging to my mother that nothing had occurred so far and how she was overreacting when the television turned itself on. To our dismay, on full blast, and I quickly turned it off, quite startled by this, but said nothing as my mother yelled, "See, Mizuna? It's that stuff in your depression. It's attracting bad entities to our home. Get rid of your evil stuff." I blew her off, still refusing to believe as I went back into my room and went to bed. Secretly, I was scared out of my mind. Fast forward one day. I had been having a good day as far as living with depression went. I had eaten 2 whole pizzas and had the feeling I needed to take a massive dump, so I went to the bathroom. Now my bathroom is set up like this. You enter, and next to the door is the light switch. Then the sink is there, which is about 2.5 feet long, so it's quite a reach for the light switch. I was sitting on the toilet and doing some thinking when the lights turned off, and at first I thought the lights had gone out, until I heard a deep and gravelly voice chuckle and say, "You're mine." This was the last straw. I quickly wiped myself and ran out of the bathroom. I told my mother what happened, and a week later I threw out all of my pentagrams and Ouija board, as well as my big 4-foot demon painting I made. We threw it all out and had a cleansing of our home. Thankfully, activity subsided about a month later. Activity, it subsided once we cleansed. Once I wiped my butt, the activity stopped. Mr. Davis is live too. Nice. He's a good boy. He's a good friend of mine here on YouTube. He's really helped me a lot whenever I've been away and filled in for content and things like that. So definitely, nice. You just subscribed to Mr. Davis. That's awesome. He's really good narrator, and he's been doing a lot of interesting content, stuff that's kind of digging into true crime and things of that sort, which I find fascinating. Thomas Fries with the $2 says, "I'm in Pennsylvania also. Had a tick on my pecker once." Oh my god, yeah, that is like my one of my biggest fears. And honestly, ticks are so bad here in the Northeast lately. It's such a... I mean, every time you guys go out into the woods, if you're in the Northeast, just freaking... As soon as you get home, just check yourself. Spread all the cheeks. Lift up all the folds. Check under your arms. Like, honestly, ticks can hide anywhere, and if they're latched onto you, make sure that you either go get a professional to get them out, or, have someone else get that thing out within at least 24 hours, because I guess it takes about 24 hours to release the stomach contents into your bloodstream, and just the potential for any sort of diseases such as Rocky Mountain spotted fever, I believe, and freaking Lyme's disease. Honestly, that's the true scary stories. Miss Molly with the 2 says, "I swear if I hear Chill's voice again, boy." Honestly, kind of like if you've ever watched Jim Gaffigan, where he goes into that voice where it's the audience member's voice, and I don't like that. And I feel like the Chill's voice, I have literally no disrespect towards Chills at all, it's just like that voice has become a character in my head. that comments on stuff. See ya, Angela. I hope you have a good night. Cashy, you're just in time for me talking about spreading cheeks. Tammy, you're not lying about the ticks up here. They're bad. My brother has or had Lyme's disease. Nope, no thank you. Yeah, I mean, thankfully, if you can get to it early, you can be treated with doxycycline and that kind of thing, but I mean, holy cow, my one friend said that he grew up and randomly, like, you know, his younger brother started experiencing broken bones in a sort of odd sense, and like they were just playing football and he'd break like a clavicle and then it would happen again. It's just like, you know, in a way that like he was very fragile, and then they come to find out that he did have Lyme's disease, and they were able to treat it. Thankfully, it's treatable, but it can definitely be a very daunting disease to have, and to think that it all developed within, you know, a parasitic bug just makes me so frustrated. It's just like, wow, all I want to do is frolic through the meadow, and I gotta worry about this freaking ticks. Hot Pocket. Hot Pocket. Hot Pocket. Lyme's can lead to fibromyalgia. Ticks can even walk like creepy mofos. Need pet op. Yeah, that's a tough thing too, is like then you have a dog, you let them run around, and then they're laying in bed with you, and then the tick is like, oh, what's this over here? Ha 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 ha. It's just almost like a liability. Everything I just feel like is getting bad this year. We got tornadoes and ticks. The perfect combination. Or a literal tornado made of ticks. That would be the next big thing. I've kept this story silent for a long time. In the last year, activity has steadily started to increase in my life, and I can't help but to have a sense of déjà vu. I started writing in my journal again and keep trying to make sense of things. When I was 12, my family and I moved into a new house. This house was built specifically for us on 22 acres of land and woods in southern Indiana. It was a gorgeous house. 3-bedroom, full basement, wraparound porch, and a catwalk that attached the 2 upstairs rooms and overlooked the living room. My father even had a pond dug out for the front yard, and our backyard was nothing but miles and miles of woods. I was so optimistic about moving because how could a brand new house be haunted? I encourage very bad Holly Harder with the 2 says, keep the stories coming, Deep Web would be great. Yeah, we were talking about Deep Web earlier. I honestly would love to jump into Deep Web, but I think I used to have a Deep Web video, but YouTube, like, and it got popular actually. It like was close to 1 million views, but then YouTube demonetized it, and I think you know, manually demonetized it, so I'm not sure the direction I would go with deep web stuff, just because I think deep web or dark web kind of triggers something on YouTube that would not be so good. And also, like, a lot of the stories in that deep web video were just right out the gate were pretty messed up. So, unfortunately, that is something that might only be able to be discussed almost indirectly. Can't be too on the nose with it here on YouTubes. I encountered very bad entities that in no way can compare to my earlier encounters. Reliving some of these encounters are truly unsettling, but I think it is important. I should have followed my gut the first week we moved. I had a friend over, and she was helping me unpack and get settled. We stayed up all night putting my clothes away and hanging pictures on the walls. I didn't have curtains up on the windows yet, and I can remember avoiding looking back into the windows when it got dark because the woods had a very ominous feeling about them. Eventually, my friend and I were satisfied with our unpacking progress and fell asleep. I thought I was dreaming when we woke up the next morning. The majority of my clothes that we had hung up were on the floor. Boxes that were still full when we fell asleep were dumped over, and the floor was covered with all of my belongings and trash. Parents didn't believe me or my friend, and my friend never came back to the house after that. In that moment, I wasn't scared. I distinctly remember being so angry. This was my first week in my new house, and it was supposed to be a new beginning. I couldn't understand how or why this was happening again. The level of activity in this house was beyond anything I could imagine. Throughout my early teenage years, I would do everything I could not to be home. I especially never wanted to be home alone. Lights would turn off and on, doors would open, and the televisions would turn off and on. The water faucets would start running, items would move to only reappear, glasses would fall off in... Simone Baxter with the 2 Australian buckaroonies says ghosts aren't real. Oh boy. I'm sure a lot of people would have something to say about that. Careful what you wish for, my friend. You might just experience it. Glasses would fall off counters and break. Whispers, shadows. Eventually my family began questioning such experiences, but they would just brush it off. There were several things that were present in this house. The shadow figures. There were so many shadow figures. The catwalk, stairs, and the basement were the most common places I would see them. However, I was not the only person. The catwalk between the 2 rooms was basically a hallway without walls. It connected the rooms but looked down over the living room. The figures would just walk from my room to the other room back and forth. They were nearly a full apparition but looked like a shadow. It was hard to explain. One night I had a friend over and we were home alone watching movies. I ran to the kitchen to get a drink and I could hear her screaming from the living room. I ran back in and she was trembling in fear because she saw someone walk from the guest room into my room. I ran back in and she was Oops. I read that twice. I just had a glitch in my own matrix. Joel Sains. Hello, fellow Joel. Hello, fellow Joel Sains. I ran back in and she was trembling in fear because she saw someone walk from the guest room into my room. I had already seen this thing many times throughout the years do the same thing. I tried to explain what happens to my friend, and even tried to get her to go upstairs with me to show her no one was really there. Needless to say, she ended up calling her parents and going home. On several occasions, I would be in my room watching TV with the door open and see the figure standing in the doorway of the guest bedroom. I would just shut and lock my door. This was my normal, but that doesn't mean it was any less terrifying. The shadow figures in the basement were worse. Our basement didn't have a door, it was just a staircase that went into the basement from the living room. Everything that we had in storage at the old guest house was down there. However, we also had a lot of World War I and II artifacts and memorabilia. My grandfather was a collector his entire life, and when he passed, our basement was the only space large enough to keep his life's work. We had medals, statues, guns, uniforms, flags, just to name a few. I 100% believe that multiple spirits were attached to these items because not only would you see shadow figures in the basement and creeping up the basement stairs, but you could hear whispers and things moving. It was truly a scene from a horror movie. Growing up, I didn't know land could be haunted. It could be haunted. Ghosts only appear to those who are vulnerable. Yeah, I've always been a little bit curious, as far as those who are, I don't even know, just more vulnerable, I suppose. Yeah, I guess is the right word. To the spirits and things of that nature, or because that would be quite the life to have. I don't know if I could deal with it too well. I'd go insane, man. Bling, how's Pradeep doing? He is doing great. He's been kind of like standoffish for this whole week. Once again, I think it's because I need to get the laundry off my bed. I'm just a lazy piece of poop. But he seems to be avoiding my room. He used to like bang on the door to get in, but for some reason this week he seems a little preoccupied with staring out the window out in the living room and just kind of chilling there. Growing up, I didn't know land could be haunted. I laugh because looking back, I was living a real-life poltergeist movie. Living in the country, I played outside a lot. I often felt suffocated in the house and would just want to be able to breathe. However, I was never alone. I would often see a man standing by our pond. His face was never clear, but he would move around the pond. Sometimes he would be under our weeping willow tree, or sometimes he would be looking down at the house. He never moved, but instead just stood there. He didn't really scare me, but I never attempted to approach him. There was also something that would walk the porch. On many occasions I would be sitting on the porch reading or talking with a friend, and you could hear someone walking. It was so clear that you would fully expect to see someone walk around the corner, but instead you would see the wood move with each footstep. You would see it get closer and closer by the movement of the wood and the sound, and then just stop. All of my friends and my mother witnessed this several times. It would always stop several feet in front of someone, and you could hear it walking around the porch from inside the house, too. There were also the figures in the woods. I could look out a window and at any given point and see what I would consider to be a person standing in the woods, peeking around a tree or bush. Their faces were never clear, and I couldn't ever determine whether they were men or women. Interestingly enough, I was playing in the woods one day and I stumbled across an old well. It was fairly deep, but you could tell it was extremely old because what was left was barely visible. I immediately told my parents about it and showed them where it was. I guess this piqued their interest, and they began researching the land more. They were able to confirm that at one time, a small community occupied the land, but nothing was left except for the well. The activity never stopped or even slowed down. Even when I wasn't home, I felt like I was being watched. I still do. It impacted my family's emotional and mental states because the house was literally draining all of our energy and replacing it with negative energy. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. Everything in my life was strained because of home. I do think the house wore on my parents' relationship too, and in some crazy way, I partially blame their split on the house. In my later high school years, I started going to haunted locations with friends. For them, it was just for fun, and they didn't believe my stories or the ghost stories around town. They wanted proof, and I thought I could help. At this point in my life, I didn't think anything could be scarier than what I lived with at home. I really began to realize how sensitive I actually was. I also learned that spirits can physically hurt you, and can attach themselves to you and follow you home to your already very haunted house. Javier Reyes with the 2 says, "Hey ghosts and demons, it's me, your boy." Thank you, Javier. And Miss Molly has become a member. We've been getting a lot of members now that the join button has officially transitioned over from the whole YouTube. Remember that whole YouTube gaming thing? It was like almost, I don't know what they were planning on doing. I don't know why YouTube just didn't have like a button you could click on the top left, you know, where everything else is, that just says like live streams and stuff like that. Like it just was, and it's like, you know, maybe it was like blinking red dot or something, like that's where the live streams are, and hey, it's the color red, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click on it, you know, but thank you so much for becoming a member, Molly. I've added additional emojis to those who stick around, and perhaps those will be available to you now. I'm not really sure, but it's your boy, a ghost. Whoa. In the middle of a story, a freaking cockroach just crawled under your door and up the wall. Bree, that's terrifying. I remember, when I was in Hawaii, we were staying at a friend's brother's military house. Like, the military just buys a house to keep, you know, individuals there when they're stationed. And, it was funny, but it was also gross. There was just, like, the flying cockroaches. I mean, I don't know if they actually flew or not, but there was just cockroaches, multiple cockroaches. Like, I probably killed, like, maybe 10 cockroaches while I was there. It was kind of, it was just weird. It was different, you know. I had not experienced that before, and the fact that my bed that I stayed in was just on, like, kind of on the ground. There was just a constant sort of stasis of anxiety that I felt as I was laying in my bed, like, okay, when's one of those pieces of crap gonna crawl in my mouth? Cockroach, hey Bree, it's me, your boy, Cockroach. Cockroacha. Rolling in. Burn them, burn the whole house down. Kaylin, oh yeah, Kaylin's having a baby, and she's got the final name. We're all following the storyline very closely, and we would like to know what your baby's name is. It's your boy, baby. Chickens eat cockroaches. That's interesting. Yeah, my roommate got some chickens for a little coop out in the yard, and it's kind of scary. Like, there was an owl that was trying to get in to eat them when they were smaller, and there was also a hawk that was just bouncing around out there trying to get in. It's crazy how many things just want to eat chicken. Joel is thicker than oatmeal. Man, I'm dummy thick. I'm crash test dummy thick. So this one sounds like a good story. It's literally titled Ghost 0, Me 1. Maybe they're playing soccer or something. FYI, Joel is your brother's middle name. Well, time to name your firstborn that. Joel. So to start off, I need to explain the kind of person I am. I have always been a really non-reactive kind of guy. I don't really ever get shocked or startled. My friends usually comment on how cool it is and how amazing I am under pressure, and how I can remain calm in emergencies. As a side note, I've also frustrated a few people by not giving them the reactions they want or expect. My best friend once refused to talk to me for a few weeks after I didn't seem to care that he was having his first child. We talked it out. I told him that I was, of course, happy for him. It just isn't my nature to get excited about stuff, good or bad. He knows me and understood. He was just disappointed. I don't say all this to brag about how cool I am and stuff. I just wanted to illustrate how I am for the context of what just happened. So my grandma has lived in the same house for my entire life, 28 years, until 2 months ago when she moved out to a new house out in the country. The new house is really nice and I'm happy for her. Apparently, she didn't like living there anymore because it's a big old house with lots of painful memories. My dirtbag grandpa cheated on them and then left her a few years ago, and it's a pain to try and keep it maintained. And of course, there's a ghost. For as long as I can remember, my grandma has complained about a ghost that messes with her all the time. The usual stuff: strange noises in the attic, basement, and in the walls, voices, stuff going missing and showing up in weird places, doors opening and closing, footsteps, etc. She moved pretty suddenly, taking only what she needed and leaving all of her accumulated stuff from being in her 80s behind, asking if my family could help her slowly move the rest out to where she is now and move some stuff she didn't want anymore into storage. Me being in college and between jobs with a bunch of free time, I am doing the bulk of it. A few weeks ago I was in the house doing this when I started hearing stuff. At first, I was in the dining room packing some old people's china, the fancy kind that has never been used, when I hear the metal screen door to the garage open and slam closed. Thinking it... God, I don't know. Sorry. Sorry about that. My freaking throat just started to fill up with scritchy scratchy. The fancy kind that never gets used. Okay. Oh, Lils with the $2 says your streams are the highlight of my day. That's good to hear. I'm glad that it can be. I'm glad that I can be doing this more often. Halloween, baby. A few weeks ago, I was in the house. Damn. I'm like... Sorry, guys, one second. ASMR spitting. It's a cockroach. It might be. It crawled right in my mouth. Just spit a whole one out. Sometimes I'll eat dates. Have you ever had the Mariani dates? They're my favorite. The pitted ones, so they take the pit out. They're pretty much just giant raisins covered in sugar. It's delicious. And they're great fiber too if you're into that kind of thing. And when I look at them, they're kind of gross to look at because they, they literally look like if someone put a dead cockroach in there and just covered it in maple syrup, I would have no idea. It's the cockroach's revenge. Return of the roach. You've killed 10 of my friends, now I will kill you. Oh yeah, Tyler the Creator cops up a cockroach. ASMR 101, hacking up a lung. A few weeks ago I was in the house doing this when I started hearing stuff. At first I was in the dining room packing some old people china, the fancy kind that has never been used, when I hear the metal screen door to the garage open and slam closed. Thinking it was my mom coming by to give me some lunch. Hey, is that you, Mom? No answer. I walked to the other side of the house and checked the garage. No one there. No cars in the driveway. House is empty. I shrug. Probably the wind. Next, I'm hauling the taped-up boxes of newspaper-wrapped china to my car. While in the garage, I hear a loud metal bang in the house. I finish putting the boxes in and go inside to see two of the floor-level cabinets in the kitchen open and all the metal pots and pans strewn into the floor. Since I need to pack them up anyway, I just pack them all up and carry them out to the car. I'm still in the kitchen, and it's nearly an hour later when I hear something in the basement. It sounds like someone running up and down the basement stairs very loudly. The basement door is attached to the kitchen, so I turn around and open the door, flipping the light switch at the top of the stairs. The sound stopped when I opened the door and I didn't see anything. Again, stuff like this doesn't really creep me out, so I just move down the stairs to see if I can see anything. Nothing down there but bookshelves filled with cookbooks and boxes of old Christmas decorations and junk. As I turn around to go back upstairs, I hear and see a mop in the maintenance closet. I guess that's what it is. It's a tiny room to the left of the stairs with a water heater and the fuse box. Kind of jump out of the bucket, wait, what? Kind of jump out of the bucket, it's in and out of... Oh, this was like a long... Okay, I'm gonna have to start that sentence over. As I turn around to go back upstairs, I hear and see a mop in the maintenance closet kind of jump out of the bucket. Kind of jump out of the bucket it's in and out of the room. Someone threw it. This was odd for two reasons. One, obviously it looked like a mop hopped out of a bucket onto the floor by itself, and two, the maintenance door was closed when I came in and I didn't open it. I know it was closed because if the door to the closet is open, then it blocks the staircase and I didn't have to go around it to get in. So, like the character from a horror movie, I walk over and into the closet to investigate. More confused than scared. Inside, I pull the chain to turn on the hanging light bulb to turn on the light. After 3 seconds or so, I hear the light bulb pop as the lights go out and the door behind me slams closed hard. I turn around and calmly try to open the door, but the handle won't turn. It's like someone is holding the knob from the other side. Keep in mind this door doesn't lock. It's just a knob without a lock. I step away and after about 5 more seconds I say, "Okay, what now?" And a gentle, "Okay, what now?" in a gentle, nonchalant tone. I wait about a minute more in the pitch-black room before trying to handle... Oh shit, sorry. Sometimes I get on a roll with reading, but then sometimes I get on a mistake roll as well, where I just can't find my rhythm. I can't find my rhythm, man. I can't find it. I needs it. I wait about a minute more and the shite, there it is. It's gone. I lost my mojo. My mojo, baby, girl. I wait about a minute more in the pitch-black room before trying the handle again, and it opens with no problem. I step out, go back up the stairs, and go back to packing. And that's it. It's been a few weeks, and nothing has happened since then. I've been over there pretty much every day for at least an hour. I think the ghosts may have rage quit because, unlike my grandma, I didn't seem to react or care about the stuff it was doing. Tammy says you should breathe over a pot of boiling salt water. It can help get some of the gunk from your chest. Yeah, I've said this for like a week straight, but I feel like I'm on the tail end of, you know, the sickness. I'm down with the sickness and done with the sickness. But I don't know if it was the food that I ate that just like released a bunch of mucus, but I think sometimes your body just gets into like this sort of random overdrive where random overdrive of just like creating mucus and inflammatory response and all that kind of stuff, and it's just kind of gross. Just gotta get out of that. Oh yeah, Gothic Rose, how close are you to 500 subarinos? I got you guys sick through your ears. My voice crawled into your ear holes and planted a booger. An ear booger. I got a computer virus. That's what I'm sending to everyone right now. Brian, the American, with the 10 buckaronos. Thank you for the great content and helping an army vet get through tough times. I could add to your military stories if that's allowed, even though my typing is not the best. Thank you again. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Thank you for your service, and yeah, I would be more than happy to check out any military stories that you might feel submitting. It might actually, I hear a lot of people say typing out their stories can be therapeutic, so definitely send that either to the subreddit or you can email it to me at Let's Read Submissions, and maybe might even go into another volume of military stories in the future. That'd be great. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Kaylin, you're gonna eat a burrito for me. Thank you. Make sure it's big. It's like, make sure it's the size of your, like, literally twice the size of your baby is currently in your tum-tum. More mistakes means more stream, that is true. Well, we're only on story 4 here, so we're not even halfway, so most likely this stream will go over 2 hours. I'm curious how many people are in the chat right now. Looks like we got about a little over 250. Which is awesome. Be sure to hit that like button. Maybe we'll get even more folks notified that a stream is happening. So story 4 is called Living in a Horror Movie. How old am I? I am about to be in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. I will be 29. Maybe I'll even stream on my birthday. What do you guys think about that? What a way to spend it, huh? I'm writing this in hopes of being able to share my experiences without judgment. I know not everyone will believe me, and I am prepared for that. But I also know there are many who are remaining silent and who can relate, so I will begin with my first journal entries. I know that we live in a world full of skeptics who are ready to write off me as crazy. Shit, write off me. I know that we live in a world full of skeptics who are ready to write me off as crazy. I have 32 years of unexplained experiences, entities, feelings, and judgment, all of which I have documented in multiple journals. Early in my journey, I wanted to prove skeptics wrong, but now I just want them to be open to the idea that this is not a black and white world. There is so much gray, and although sometimes it is terrifying, it can change someone's entire perspective. I want to belong to a group of like-minded individuals who see and live in the grayness of the world. There was a point in my life that I was very vocal about the things that I have experienced. I didn't fear people thinking I was crazy, and I was adamant about changing a skeptic's mind. In my reality, I didn't understand how or why a person could be skeptic. My first memories as a child involved an imaginary friend. It was my form of normal. Now looking back, I know the things I experienced were not normal, that I had these that I had a so-called sixth sense and was extremely sensitive to things other people were not. I have experienced things that others only experience while watching fictional horror movies. I literally lived in a horror movie. As I mentioned, at a very early age, I would see different entities around my house. My parents blamed it on an act of imagination, but it was real. At the time, we lived in a very old house with an additional guest house attached. We just used the guest house as storage, and we never had occupants. My father was an auctioneer and was constantly bringing home old antiques. One day, my father brought home a green recliner to go in my room for my mother to read to me at night. However, an older gentleman with a black beard and hat occupied the chair every night after my mother would leave. He would just sit there, appearing more as a silhouette or shadow. He never spoke, and he never moved. He just sat there and watched me. I strongly believed fear is not something someone is born with, but instead comes from experiences. This figure terrified me because even as a child I knew he was not supposed to be there, and I couldn't understand why my parents couldn't see him. I wish he was the only entity in my house, but he wasn't. There was a long hallway that separated my room from the guest bedroom and the stairs. I would always see a shadow figure walking this hallway and going into the guest room. It wasn't the man in the chair. This thing was much scarier. Its energy was strong and extremely negative. The feeling that I spoke about earlier originated in this hallway. Whether it was visible or not, I always knew it was around. I would run from the stairs to my room every single day. The entity then began to move around the house. I think one of the more terrifying things that happened was when I was around 10. I was getting ready in front of a mirror hanging on the bathroom door. There was a belt on the ground next to me, partially under the door. I remember vividly looking in the mirror and seeing the belt slowly slide farther under the door. Thinking I was being pranked, I opened the bathroom door and no one was there. However, the belt was now on the bathroom floor. Not only was the house leaving me in a constant state of fear and anxiety, but the guest house was a place I physically could not go into because of the dreadful feeling it gave. The few times I did go into the guest house, I would always feel like I was going to get sick and would immediately leave. The guest house was a small house with a large attic. There was a big window in the attic that looked over the entire property. One afternoon, I was jumping on the trampoline with my friends. I believe this is the epiphany moment in my life when I realized I was not the only person experiencing these things. My friend looked up at the window with a terrified look on his face. There was a woman dressed in white looking down at us. She had long blonde hair and had a very blank expression on her face. We watched her for a few minutes and then she disappeared. The house was empty and the stairs to the attic had not been used in years. This lady didn't simply walk away from the window. She completely vanished. I had 3 friends that day that witnessed this entity disappearing into thin air. This was a validation to me that I was not crazy, and that there are things in this world that cannot be explained. I lived in that house until I was 12 years old. The level of activity increased throughout the years to the point I began documenting them in a journal. I have specific details of each, and far too many just to write here. When I moved to our new house, built specifically for my family, I thought things would stop and I could be a normal kid. But I was wrong. So wrong. Gothic Rose, you are 36 subs until 500. Nice. Well, let's get you to 500, my friends. If everybody's interested in creepypastas, we got Gothic Rose and Jensen in the chat, who are both very underrated narrators who need some love. So show them some love. Astral Reject, you do watch a ton of YouTube personalities, but Let's Read is right up there with Joe Rogan and Pewds. Thank you so much. Yeah, you know, once I did DMT with a chimp and, you know, I was golden ever since, never looked back. I saw the gnomes, man. I saw the gnomes. I literally love all the Joe Rogan memes. They're just so funny. Toe Rogan. You ever see the video of him, like, just doing, like, his karate kicks into a bag? Like, he generates a lot of power. It's pretty freaking intense, you know what I mean? Also, whenever you see him on his podcasts, he looks like a big dude. And I think he is, like, you know, muscle-wise. But he is only like, I think he's only like 5'6" or something like that, which isn't, you know, terribly short or whatever. But compared to other people, he just like looks like a little kid, and it's really funny. Strong in the thighs. Oh yes. Generating lots of power. This is a long one here, but it's called Growing Up with Ghosts. You know, growing up with ghosts wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it made me who I am today. A schizophrenic. Okay. Get my microphone perfectly perfect. Oh, he's 5'9"? Am I completely wrong? Joe Rogan. Height. Oh, he's 5'7". Which, you know, is not short. You know, it's not like... But for some reason, like, his proportions just sort of make him look a bit like a chimpanzee, you know? It's funny. Like if a toe mated with a chimpanzee. Molly, you're 4'9"? You're kidding me. You are not 4'9". I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just like like Pradeep is bigger, like taller than that. You could ride on Pradeep's back. That would be sick. Kind of like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but it's Molly and the Masters of the Living Room. Mickey Perez with the $1. Thank you, Mickey. Madrara, you can talk to dead people sometimes? What the freakity froke? No, I like short people. I like fun size. Ha 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 ha. Sorry, that sounded creepy. Do-do-do-do. Do-do. I've wanted to compile and just record all the things I've experienced for a long time where I could share with others. I only recently found Reddit. Now to give a little backstory, we moved into a new house when I was 4. Less than a year ago, after moving in and only 4 days after his 31st birthday, my dad became violently ill and died suddenly. Wait, what? To give a little backstory, we moved into a new house when he was 4. Okay. I don't know why I couldn't put that together. Also, I don't know why. I hope that the Lollipop Guild, yes. We are the Lollipop Guild, Lollipop Guild. Now, is that music too loud? It was like blaring in my ears though, but no one was saying anything, so I didn't really. I just turned it down a notch. One creator of Minecraft notch. One Christian Minecraft server notch down. To give a little backstory, we moved into a new house when I was 4. Less than a year after moving in, and only 4 days after his 31st birthday. My dad became violently ill and died suddenly. I'm 33 now, and over the years it's become a lot easier for me to talk about. So here goes. Very shortly after my father passed, our family was at my grandma's, my mom's mom, for mourning and comfort. I was in the back playroom with my little brother and my 2 cousins, who one is a couple of years older than me. Out of nowhere and in my head, I heard a disconnected old rotary phone that was laying around in an open box ring. So I answered it because I knew it was for me, and it was my dad. He explained everything would be okay and said other comforting things to me. I hung up the phone feeling happy and peaceful. My older cousin witnessed this and swears to this day he heard someone on the other end. Not too long after, I don't remember exact days, I was with my aunt, my dad's sister, and because I was so young, she had bought a book to read with me to help explain death and heaven. After she read it, she was trying to re-explain it all to me, and I just looked at her and said, "I know already." She said something along the lines of, "Oh, really?" And I told her, "Yes, because Daddy told me already." And that was that. Also, like right after my dad had passed, my mom woke up one morning and walked into the kitchen and found all the upper and lower cabinets wide open. It startled her. She also had an incident where she was searching everywhere for an important document, something having to do with her having to take care of all the bills now. She went through everything she could think of, then found said document sitting right on top of a mail stack that she had been going through multiple times already. Not mine, but she knows this was my dad. After this, I don't believe anything else pertained to my dad. I just got feelings about things, and it never felt like my dad. All of this happened between 1991 and 2000. Some at my house, some at others' houses. I did my best to put in a sort of general chronological order. At my house, it started with me hearing knocking on the ceiling above my head when laying in bed at night. No matter what position the bed was in, it was always over my face. If the bed moved, the knock moved. Not like someone knocking to come in, just like a knock, 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 usually in threes. Sometimes just one set of three, sometimes more. Just randomly over the years. Always sounded unnatural. Definitely was not a rodent sound or ductwork or anything. Very familiar with those sounds now as an adult living in an old 1920s home. Back at my grandma's, which had been where my mom had some of her experiences as a kid, I was around 7 to 8 and was laying down to go to sleep in the back bedroom with my little brother who was between 4 and 5. This bedroom was smaller but had a king bed and a dresser on the wall at the foot of the bed, and a small walk space, 2 feet wide maybe, on either side of the bed. The floor is like an old-style vinyl tile that stays kind of gritty at times from the kids playing outside in the sand driveway. This house is in a one-stop sign town in the middle of nowhere on 350 acres. Super rural. Hear heavy, dragging, bare feet walk the length of the bed by the wall I have to my back, and then it stops. I gather the courage to turn and look and see nothing but my brother has pushed himself up from his stomach and is staring at the wall where I hear the noise. He looks at me wide-eyed and asked him if he heard that too. He says yes. Confirmation. I tell him it's okay. Just lay down and go back to sleep. So we did eventually. That was the only time I ever heard anything there. But I know others heard stuff at that house. These are just the ones I remember, but I think there were a few more. When she was little, my mom was in her room one night trying to sleep when she heard some mumbling like people talking in the living room. She thought it was weird that her parents had visitors so late and kept trying to hear what they were talking about, but she couldn't make out what they were saying, just that it sounded like men talking. She finally heard, "Here it comes." And at that exact moment, a real bad thunderstorm blew in, like it was still and quiet up until she heard those words. Next morning, at the breakfast table, her younger brother asked my grandparents who had stopped by, and they said no one. They were asleep. He had heard the same thing my mom heard. My grandma decided that total strangers just let themselves into the house while everyone was sleeping to get out of the storm and just kindly left when it was over. My grandma is a sweet lady. People don't do that here. That's how you get shot. My older brother would tell my mom that there was a ghost when he was 2 to 3 years old. He always told her it was behind the TV that sat at an angle in the living room corner, big old floor TV, and that he was friendly, but his name wasn't Casper. My younger cousin, when he was maybe 14 to 15, was at the house alone, heard a car pull up and doors shut. He was in the living room, which is where you enter the house, so when no one came in, he went outside, and there was no car there. Remember, we are in the middle of the country. No neighbors, no street traffic, nada. Just the cows and the chickens. I spent the night at a friend's house in 5th grade for her birthday, me and another girl. B-Day friend was the stepdaughter of a cop and was taught how to handle a gun, and also had a small dog. I'm going to play later. Next day, for XYZ reason, we were left alone to hang out for a while. She was an only child, so both upstairs bedrooms were hers. Stairs start at the front door. You go up, turn right to the landing, then you have a bedroom on the left, and right side with a flat wall in between that has a tiny attic door access. We just came out of right side room when she slept in, looked for something in the left room, play junk room that had a play kitchen with the metal pots and pans in it, and had closed that door almost all the way since that's how I found it, slightly ajar. Determined objects we were... Wait, what? Dang, I made it so far and then this sentence made 0 sense. You're 19 in the body of a 30-year-old wine-drinking cat lady. Hey, accept it. It's what becomes of all of us. Determined object we were looking for was stored in attic. That's a weird statement. The object we were looking for was stored in the attic, so friend opened the little door and found what we were looking for. Friend was crouched in the attic. Myself and other friend had backs towards the room we just came out of. Heard the little dishes all crash down off the play kitchen. We all look around at the room, startled, and realize the door is now fully closed. We were 2 feet away and never heard it close. We run downstairs to her parents' bedroom, at the bottom of the stairs, and lock the door. Birthday friend finds stepdad's gun and is prepared to hold things down. I hide, panicking. Other girl is just standing there. We hear footsteps come down the wood stairs, hear her dog barking, then yelp in pain. I am petrified that I am about to be the next unsolved mysteries case. Birthday friend has gun cocked and balls of steel. Opens door and no one. We search the rest of the house. Empty. Calls the stepdad to come home. No signs of entry, nothing out of place, except the dishes that fell on the floor. Dishes can fall on their own, but not close doors, walk downstairs, and or kick dogs. That was the last time I spent the night at her house. Back at my house, my stepdad replaced the flooring in the entry and hallway one year. It was old carpet, so he changed it to ceramic tile to make it easier to clean. After this, I occasionally thought I heard footsteps, bare feet walking down the short hallway. The most prominent time that I couldn't blame on someone else or rationalize was one day when I was home alone, 12-ish, after school, sitting in living room watching BET and MTV music videos, and I heard something. So I turned the volume all the way down and heard the footsteps walking very clearly. I just stared at the hallway entrance, waiting for someone to come around the corner, but they never did. Called my big bro to come home from work so I wouldn't be alone. He couldn't leave, so I sucked it up and turned the volume on TV full blast and pretended it didn't happen. Older brother's girlfriend, G, was often home alone on the computer in my mom's room, opposite end of the hallway than the living room, waiting for my brother to get off of work, and had the exact same experience. I heard them randomly over the years, but that was the most clear time for me. My brother's bedroom, they shared a room, door would randomly shut and lock, but be picked with a bobby pin or paperclip because it was just a push-button lock. I was stoked when I debunked that as a paranormal one year. What? Wait, what? I was stoked when I debunked that as paranormal one year. There was a supply vent that would pull the door shut closed, if it was already nearly shut, when the air kicked on and the lock. Fuck. This is like the weirdest sentence. Sorry, guys. How do you get your story? And you just go ahead and most likely the best scenario is to submit it through Reddit. So reddit.com/r/letsreadofficial. It's down in the description below. And you can create a Reddit account, which is free and easy. And you don't even think you need to verify an email or anything like that, but you can if you want. So it's like easy to make anonymous accounts or whatever if you want to have anonymity. And yeah, just type up your story as a submission, label it, make sure your grammar's not dog shit, and label it as true, scary, or paranormal. Or if you want to submit a creepypasta just for the fun of it, it's a good time. But you can also submit it to Let's Read Official, and once in a while I'll take the stories from, Let's Read Official at, Let's Read Submissions at gmail.com. And you can submit that to my email there, and then I might copy and paste that over to the subreddit, which is what I do with a lot of stories that might get sent in related to a thematic topic, or something of that nature. And if you do email it, feel free to, write a title or some sort of too long didn't read or theme-related subject line, if you know what I mean. How often do I read fictional submissions? Not very often at all. I want to say 0 times anymore, because pretty much it seems like people prefer the true stories, whether they're paranormal or, true scary stories, so I tend to stick with those. But I do hope to one day, maybe on a stream or something, I can read some fictional ones if you guys feel inclined to send those in and you want to hear it narrated. Lenny Offerman, Offender Man, that's a funny name. Can't stay tonight, so I'll listen to your newest video while I sleep. Good night. Thank you for hanging out. It's good to see you. What's the difference between creepypasta and story? So creepypasta is just fictional horror. So it's just amateur horror fiction, I guess, is all I can describe it as. And then true scary stories are just experience, that kind of journal entries that people have experienced themselves. How long does it take to edit videos? Maybe I'd say the total process of making a video the recording process probably takes the longest, but I would say the total length is maybe between 4 to 6 hours or something like that. I guess that's not including all the little stuff, but I include the bulk of the work as probably 4 to 6 hours. You should collaborate with Black Eye Blonde. Yeah, I love Black Eye Blonde. That'd be cool. It's just tough sometimes because, collaborations for me, it seems like people usually just prefer my voice, so if I'm doing collaborations, it's most likely because I'm kind of crunched for time and I need someone to kind of fill in the void while I'm gone and save me some time on getting ready if I'm going away somewhere. We're going to be gone for a little while. Kaylin, just kind of scared to be a single mom. I definitely would feel the fear there as well, but I hope that you have some good supporting cast of characters around you with family and that kind of thing, and just don't be afraid to get the help that you need. I definitely hope that it is available to you. Is it easy to spot embellishment in a story? I think so. From time to time, you just kind of get a vibe where you're like, man, oh man, that story sounds embellished. Joel, where are you going to be during VidCon? Yeah, so VidCon's coming up here, July 9th through 14th. To be honest with you, I have no idea where I'm going to be. If you want to keep up to date what's happening, I'll probably discuss it on social media such as Twitter and Instagram, taking videos and just kind of documenting the experience and that kind of thing. So yeah, just kind of, if you want to keep up to date, that's where that'll be. Ground Zero says, thank you for keeping me company while I do my college animation homework. God bless you. You keep me sane, man. Thank you, Ground Zero. That's good to hear. I'd love to see your animations if you were ever inclined. Feel free to email me or DM me. I love animations. I'm always looking for people to animate future stories and that kind of thing. Zachary Ramo with the $5. Thanks, Zach. Have you done any military horror stories or military true stories? Also love your content. I have done quite a few of those and kind of random ones, but if you go back probably about a couple weeks, you'll see it was actually a feature for Swamp Dweller when I was away, but Swamp Dweller did quite a few hours of military experiences and stuff, and they're really good. My brother's bedroom, as they shared a room, the door would randomly shut and lock, but could be picked with a bobby pin or paperclip because it was just a push-button lock. I was stoked when I debunked that as paranormal one year. I was stoked when I debunked that as paranormal one year. There was a supply vent that would hold the door shut closed, if it was already nearly shut, when the air kicked on, and the lock would be pushed in by the strike plate for the closet. Oh my god, I don't even know what this sentence is even on about. It's like a full-on diagram. It's like there's a random hyphen that just really threw me off. There was a supply vent that would hold the door shut closed when the air kicked on, and the lock would be pushed in by the strike plate for the closet door inside their bedroom when the door was pushed open too hard. Awesome. One less creepy occurrence for me to freak out over. Until it happened one time when I was with G across the hall in my mom's room on the computer. We were alone. We heard a noise in the room, looked, and realized the door had been shut. Thought a robber because of the noise, so we armed ourselves with my softball bats. I was mad out of fear, I guess. Went to use a bobby pin to pop the lock. As soon as I popped the lock and had my hand softly... Oh, shit. As soon as I popped the lock and had my hand softly grasping the knob to turn it, the knob turned by itself, and the door opened just far enough for the latch could... Oh, God, I feel like the grammar in the story was doing really good, and now I'm just like getting so... There's like... I don't know, that always happens at the end of stories. I feel like people just kind of give up and they're like, whatever. Type it out. We thought it was a robber because of the noise, so we armed ourselves with my softball bats. Went to use a bobby pin to pop the lock. As soon as I popped the lock and had my hand softly grasping the knob to turn it, the knob turned by itself, and the door opened just far enough the latch wouldn't catch, and you could push the door open. I threw my hand back and stared at Gabby like, "Did you just see that?" She did. The room was empty, but out of panic, we beat out some of the stuff. What? Sorry, but out of panic, we beat the hell out of some stuffed animals my little brother had covered up in... Alright, whatever, dude. This is just like the longest, most... Okay. The room was empty, but out of panic, we beat the life out of some stuffed animals my little brother had covered up on the bottom bunk that looked coincidentally like a poorly hidden robber. Rest in peace, Teddy. I came home. Alright. Oh shit, I said alright as I clicked record. Came home one day after school, got off the bus, pulled out my house key, walked to the front door, opened it, took one step inside, and heard my mom's bedroom door slam shut. Hard. My thoughts, all in a couple of seconds, hadn't moved. Oh, my brother is home. Turn head and see his car not there. Okay, G is here. Yelled G's name, no response. Weird. So I sit still and listen. Silence. Move inside just enough to peer down a short hallway, the footstep one, and see my mom's bedroom doors wide open. I nope on out of there, leave my front door open, close the storm door, and peer around the sides of the house and backyard to check the windows. All are closed, no robbers. So I sit myself outside on the curb and wait for an adult to get home. Maybe 15 minutes later, Big Bro pulls up and asks why I'm outside. I explain what happened. He searches the house. Empty. Okay, back to normal life. Police were never called in any of the intruder situations because I think in the back of my mind, I knew what it was from the get-go. Not too long after this incident, we moved into a new build home. Not all... Shit. Dude, after I get to a certain amount of stories or amount of reading, my brain just turns to actual poop. Okay. Not too long after this last incident, we moved into a new-built home in the country, and I had not had any strange things happen there. But not the end just yet. I was going into high school that year. One evening when I was around 16, my mother got a call that my Mimi, Dad's mom, had been in a wreck and she broke down in tears. I was standing there when she got the call, and I just had this feeling that everything was fine. No panic, no worry, no sadness, just calm. And I told her it was going to be okay, and meant it. My Mimi and my aunt went above and beyond to make sure we stayed a part of their family after my dad died. We were close. It was strange not to be upset. Everything turned out to be okay. She sustained injuries but was recovering. Fast forward a year to my senior year. Out of seemingly nowhere, Mimi suffers major complications from the original car wreck injury and is hospitalized. My mom asked me if she needs to worry, and I don't know how, but I knew. Yes, we need to worry and we need to go see her ASAP, as she lived about 3 hours away. She died shortly after on March 6, 2004. I found out I was pregnant that summer. Mimi wouldn't be there to celebrate her only son's... only daughter having a baby. I was pretty devastated. So my pregnancy goes pretty normal. I'm about 2 weeks away from my due date when I unexpectedly go into labor around 2:30 a.m. Rush to the hospital. Have to have an emergency C-section. A little C-section, yes? I see you have a C-section. I'm about 2 weeks away from my due date when I unexpectedly go into labor around 2:30 a.m. Rush to the hospital. Have to have an emergency C-section, and my baby gets put in NICU with a slim chance of survival. He was born March 6, 2005, exactly 1 year to the date, and I would later find out to the time that my dad's mother passed away. My son was released from NICU less than 2 weeks later, healthy, and is now 14. I hope you enjoyed my middle... Oh, I'm just going to end on the last one. My son was released from NICU less than 2 weeks later, healthy, and is now 14. How many stories left? We are halfway. These other ones, thankfully, are a lot... obviously I know you guys want longer stories, but... Man, sometimes the super long ones that just kind of, don't really have a cohesive storyline. Not like real life experiences ever have, a legitimate storyline. It's just, whenever there's just so much to read, it all just kind of blends together, and they do all these, parentheses to explain really erroneous details, and they have to it's just grammatically, when it comes to someone reading it, I guess, out loud, I really have to be on my toes, I'm stepping through a minefield of bad grammar. I'm going through the minefield. I'm down here in the shit, in the muck, in the murk and mallow. I don't know what I'm talking about. Do. I might grab some water here, guys. Just as a little bit of a halfway point. Seth, the Discord is down below in the description, the Discord invite. I'll be right back. Just let everyone know that if anybody's like, where is he? That I'm getting some water. Okay, I'm back. Uh-oh. Ashy says the Raptors did it. Let's see. Raptors. There it is, 118 to 109. Raptors are up 1 in the NBA Finals. Or the second in East Conference. The NBA Finals? Yeah. Well, that's a nice optimistic turn of events for the basketball fans. Or people who like to bet money on basketball games. Where is he? Where is he? Where is she? Adrian, you are not the only one to fall asleep to me voice. There are many like you, and you all will meet in Dreamland one day. I was always susceptible to seeing paranormal things as a child. My mom had a miscarriage before I was born, and my imaginary friend turned out to be my sister, Alex. But that's a whole other story. I moved into a new house when I was about 3 years old with my mom and her new boyfriend. He was very narcissistic and emotionally abusive, which would explain the Hat Man's presence. I would wake up screaming in the middle of the night and started having extremely violent nightmares at around this time, about things that a child shouldn't be able to comprehend, mostly death or torture related. The description of the Hat Man fits the entity I was seeing to a T. A shadowy figure with a trench coat who thrives off of fear and latches onto vulnerable people who exude negative energy and are emotionally drained. But the thing is, I saw him. Not a shadowy figure. I saw his long beige trench coat and his beige fedora or bowler hat and his long nose. I remember literally seeing him sitting on our furniture or walking around the house in broad daylight. My mom had always kept telling me it was just my imagination and nothing was going to hurt me. I tried to keep telling myself this from time to time. I was 3 to 8 years old, but... Wait, what? Oh. I tried to keep telling myself this from the time that I was 3 to 8 years old, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was there. Some nights I would pee the bed because I didn't want to get up and have to face him. I remember being restless and almost suffocating under my blankets, trying to hide myself from him. And I remember hearing my heart beating because I was so scared that it was beating practically out of my chest. During this time, I would constantly see faces all over the place. In my ceiling, on the walls, in the carpets, truly everywhere. Not just a smiley face or frowny face, but actually defined facial features. I felt so trapped. My mom kept telling me once again that it was just my imagination, but I knew that it wasn't. So a few years later, I'm going to a therapist who does both spiritual healing and actual psychology. I told her about this man with a hat that kind of looked like a mysterious detective, and she said that hypnosis would help me get in contact with the spirits I saw as a child to get closure and send them to the light. I closed my eyes, and I was in my childhood home again, opening all the doors. I opened my front door, and it was dark. The whole house was dark. I saw my little sister, and she said, "Thank you for playing me." Playing me? Isa! With the $2. Thank you, Isa. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, Cashew, do you like these new emojis? You've been a member for 10 months. That's huge. Can you imagine being a member for a whole year? You'll unlock like a bunch of dope emojis. Not a bunch, but mainly just like one. Which is pretty neat. Maybe one of them's a fedora. You never know. I saw my little sister. Okay. I saw my little sister, and she said thank you for playing with me. I'll always guide you. That gave me a sense of relief. I walked around for a little bit and opened another door. The Hat Man was just standing there, but I couldn't see much, and he wasn't very expressive. I asked what he wanted in my house, but no luck. He just stood there, hat covering his face, with no response. I started getting nervous at this point, so we stopped. A year after that session, I went to a medium because my childhood best friend passed away. I had already had a dream about her telling me that she was okay and happy, but I just wanted to hear from her one last time. The session itself lasted about 10 minutes, but I spent the next 2 hours with the medium telling her about this man. She said he sounds like a malevolent spirit, and I told her about how he would watch and torment me as a child. I identify as an atheist, but she gave me her St. Michael the Archangel statue right off of her desk and told me I needed to take it and ask him for protection. After all of this time, my mom finally admitted to me that she had also seen him too, and that she would pray every night that my soul would be protected and surrounded by light. I got baptized when I was 8 years old, and all of a sudden I didn't see him or any of the spirits, including my sister, anymore. I still really don't believe in religion whatsoever. I do, however, believe in paranormal happenings, and I believe that having faith in anything that's pure does protect you. I have countless stories similar to this, and I tried for years to convince myself that ghosts weren't real, asking myself, how and why do I believe demons and spirits are real if I don't believe in God? But honestly, I feel that some things are just too much for the human mind to comprehend. Does anyone else have an experience with the Hat Man? This has been on my mind non-stop since I discovered that he's a known entity and not just some random guy from the 1800s wandering around my old house. Fortnite Rare! Whoa! We got a, yeah, she says we got a verified user up in her. Says, bro, your videos are amazing, man. I listen to you when going to bed. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Fortnite Rare. We like Fortnite. We like Fortnite. Livy B. Bow Dow. With the $1. It is interesting, like, those Hat Man stories. Oh my god, Fortnite Rare, dude, your channel is huge. Your channel is actually huge. That's sick, dude. Fucking, sorry. Oh, you can you can hear me looking at your videos, which is funny. Dude, 8 hours ago, you're doing 412k views 8 hours ago on a video called Streamers Mind Blown after Nick Merckx officially joining FaZe Clan Fortnite Moments. Dude, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. That is so cool. Yeah, Fortnite has been a phenomena amongst the gamer guild. Wedgie Puller 338 says, I started listening to horror stories at night about 3 years ago. I'm very picky with voices, but I stumbled upon yours. All I listen to is yourself, Be Buster, and Your Maker. I love the consistency. Thank you. Yeah, we try to, like Fortnite Rare was saying, we definitely hit that grind. It's been a real help. Like one of our mods in Discord, Spooky Whispers, has been a huge help with getting permission for stories, so it just kind of takes my mind off of that, and I don't have to worry about copyright issues or anything like that, and just getting different stories from Reddit and our paranormal, and then obviously you guys submitting stories to the submissions as well. Fortnite Rare says, you're my go-to channel for scary stories. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it was so funny. I was just saying earlier, I was like, I wonder, you know, what random channels, like big channels and stuff, like what they watch, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, you know, even though we make content, there's still content that we consume, I guess is the right word, or watch and stuff. So that makes me feel good. I'm glad I can reach others in the YouTube community as well. This is cool. The Hat Man. Wahahaha. Fortnite Rare, have you had any paranormal experiences of your own you'd like to share with the class? Seth Williams with the 5 buckarona says, going to bed. Love your channel, man. Thank you, Seth. Thanks for hanging. Thanks for hanging. Especially your alien encounter stories. I love that so much. It's interesting how these beings that are so much more advanced than us. Yeah, it is weird. I'm glad you watched that, because that video was not quite as clap that ass for Let's Read. That's funny. Because that video was not quite as popular as, like, you know, some of the other true scary stories, but we put a lot, I mean, acquiring the stories, and then also getting Robin. He does some editing, some high quality editing as far as the during that video in the beginning. Did an awesome job with that, so I was really proud to put that out, so I'm glad that you enjoyed it. But yeah, alien stuff is really strange, because I always, reading like old writings and stuff like that. One of the things that certain churches allow into their scriptures is the Book of Enoch, and oh nice, you listened to the whole story. Yeah, hopefully it does pop off here eventually. That's the cool thing about some YouTube videos, is that they like randomly gain traction. So I would love people to see and hear all those different alien stories. But oh, Miss Molly, I miss your donation. You were gone to get water though. Left it slide. Yeah, let me check here. Sorry about that. Oh, Miss Molly with the $2, thank you, says, how much to read my smut, Joel? Just kidding. Oh, hey, actually the threshold is $2, so send it on through. This is perfect. Lined up swimmingly. But in like the Book of Enoch, it's really interesting because it's like a book that's not included in basic, Christian canon, I guess you could say, but it talks about the Nephilim and that kind of thing that is talked about in like Genesis, about like how the sons of God came down and mated with the daughters of man and created like hybrids and that kind of thing, and like one of the main reasons for like the flood and all this kind of stuff. I enjoy like historical documents and that thing, and digging into that kind of stuff, but like there's like I was we were at the gym today, and a little girl, the one person brought their little girl there, and it was just so funny because she they constantly play like classic rock and stuff while we're working out, and I like classic rock, it's good, but it does get old and you just need something with higher energy while you're working out. And this little girl, who must have only been maybe 6 or 7, just like comes over and is asks the main gym coach, like, hey, can you change the music? And I was like, man, it's so funny, at like such a young age, like music has such a huge effect on us. And then I was reminded of the Book of Enoch, because in it kind of like discusses these like sort of angelic beings that left their sort of prior estate, existing within like the heavenly realm. And then a lot of the things that in it, I believe it briefly discusses like the things that they gave to humans, such as like metalworking, and I think one of it was like music, So I sort of correlated that a little bit with, aliens, because aliens, you can imagine from a more biological standpoint, like some sort of creatures from either another dimension or like, external from Earth, from far, far away or wherever, were able to give us certain technologies that were otherwise unavailable to us prior. And, maybe some of that, some of what they gave to us was something like metalworking and music. It's crazy. Yeah, I definitely feel that aliens certainly are something. You know what I mean? Like, it's all these experiences, especially the stories I read, they have a lot of similar occurrences in them, a lot of similar patterns. So I'm like, and they're all from different people. So it's like, there's got to be some sort of correlation there, and I don't know exactly where they come from, whether it's from some other sort of dimensional state or whether it's from, you know, Jupiter or wherever, or the Sirius star. I don't know. If you ever saw a UFO land, you'd walk up and try to communicate with them. That would be dope. That would be really, really cool. I mean, a lot, and some of the stories I've read in the past about aliens, it seems like some of them are actually relatively friendly. It seems like a lot of them are carrying out some sort of recon missions, or maybe they just want samples of your sperm or something. I don't know. Gothic Rose with the 2 says, I'll be listening to your alien video at work tomorrow. That's awesome. Yeah, be sure to check out the beginning. Like the first 12 minutes is like a mini documentary about Area 51 and the sort of island experience that led up to Area 51 before. Maury Island, yeah, and the editing's really cool, and it's very interesting. It's kind of a direction I want to go with the channel, is doing more little mini documentary stuff, but finding the appropriate topics that I feel will interest interest you guys, because I know a lot of people subscribe for like to listen to fall asleep and that kind of thing, but I also kind of want to break into the whole mini documentary style stuff and just change up the content, maybe even if it's only once a month. But have I had any scary experiences myself? I have, I guess mainly just like sleep paralysis stuff, when I was in college, really stressed out with school, and just there's like suddenly you feel as if though there's a presence, and like that fear like leads to a sense of paralysis, like something's on you. And for me, it's only like it was only able to go away like once I prayed and stuff, so that was really weird. But other than that, like nothing super outright, I guess, like as far as seeing anything or hearing any audible stuff, or definitely read about a lot of scary experiences. But I'm kind of thankful that I'm almost thankful that I never really had anything too scary happen, because I'm a bit of a chicken. Which is funny, because that's, all I do is read these scary things, and I'm like, man, that would freak me out. Oh yeah, Cashy, your new emoji is a baby lecture. I just added those yesterday. I'm like, shoot, I need to add these because now we're getting members now that YouTube switched over from like the YouTube gaming thing, so. Livy B with the 2 says, me and my wife love vids, listen on the road, she sleeps. That's cool. That's awesome. And I was happy, I was happy to get things onto the podcast as well, basically doing compilations of videos on there, so in case people, missed, or not missed, but in case, people want to avoid taking up their data, they can use the podcast that's on Spotify and iTunes to, go through when you get stuck on the road or the airport. You're curious what made me want to start this channel about telling stories? Yeah, so I mean, I basically just needed something creative to do. My roommates did comedy on YouTube, and I was like, I was working as a registered nurse for a while, and basically just wanted something creative to do, and someone, I was like, what is not really on YouTube that seems plausible for me to do, and I tried a few different routes, but they weren't really working out, and then I had a suggestion that, well, maybe you could read stuff, and I had some experience with like, sound and recording, with sound and recording that people who did documentaries in college and stuff, I was like the sound guy for that, so, I was like, shoot, maybe I'll read stories, and then I started reading like Wikipedia pages and different like information. And if you go back to the really beginnings of my channel, like my voice, like the style of reading is way different. And then I came across Creepypastas and Mr. Creepypasta and Creeps McPasta and all those guys, and I was like, shoot, I guess this seems to be having a lot of success, because very early on I was just like, well, I want to do a YouTube channel, but I also want it to be, you know, I want it to go well, you know what I mean? And so I went down, I kind of followed that trend of doing creepypastas, and then from that point it sort of evolved into the true scary stories, and those were a lot easier to come by, and they seem to be a lot more popular. So I'm like, you know, I'm just kind of like everybody, you just kind of like follow. It's fun to create things, but it's also fun to just, you know, or it's like also reasonable from like a business standpoint to like follow the trends, and this is kind of where it's led me, and it's been great. The animated horror stories, yeah, they definitely did the best. I definitely need to do some more animated stuff, because that seems to bring. I would love like once a month or something, like do a documentary once a month, do a you know, an animation or something like that. It's just, it's tough to find. Yeah, I'm definitely looking for an animator if anybody is in that realm, but you know, really want some high quality stuff. So it's, you know, it's tough to find someone who has the time and is willing to get into that. Robin, you know, besides his editing, does animation stuff, but we haven't really discussed that yet, so maybe he'd be down for that as well. I feel like I put so much on his plate sometimes. So this next one is called Unexplained Interrupted Phone Calls from an Indian Ponzi scheme. Do I still attend college? Not anymore. So I'm 29. Graduated college back in 2012 with a nursing degree, and so I was a nurse from 2013 until February of this year. It's definitely a good job if anybody's interested in that. And yeah, you know, the YouTube channel just kept growing and growing, and you know, I was able to pay off my student loans and stuff, you know, with working as a nurse, but also doing the YouTube grind. And you know, eventually I got to the point where it's like, I love this stuff. I love doing YouTube. I love what it's enabled me to do and be, and I'm just so thankful for that. Thankful for Robin. You love a meat on your plate. All right, yeah, no, that I'm glad. Maybe we can get into the animation realm. But yeah, so I resigned from my position at the hospital that I worked at back in February, and just doing YouTube full time now. So, you know, I hope it keeps going well. A lot of people have had issues on YouTube, randomly getting demonetized and stuff, but it's definitely looking a lot more promising as time has gone on. So I'm, you know, definitely feeling a lot more secure, which is sometimes the difficult part. Ground Zero says, what kind of software for animation do you prefer? I'm kind of clueless when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so I'm really open to anything that you think would stylistically look cool, or, you know, basically I would just do maybe like 3 or 4 stories that are shorter, 2 to 3 minutes, and just I go from there. You're happy that I love what I do. Yeah, I mean, looking at your channel, I'm glad that you get to, you know, you get to experience the life of YouTube as well, full on, and I really excited to see your success on there as well. That's really cool. I'm curious, like, what, you know, like, what's the next, you know, there's Fortnite, what's after that, you know what I mean? Obviously the sort of things wax and wane, the different trends and stuff, but always keeping an eye out. It was the summer of 2010. I was 20 years old. I was about to start a new job at a sporting goods store. I really wanted a haircut and some new clothes to start the job, so I shot my uncle a call to share the news with him and ask if I could borrow $50 to get that stuff done. He was excited for me and had no issues with lending me 50 so I could look nice on my first day. All of a sudden, mid-conversation, the call got a little bit staticky. From there, it transitioned into, imagine an abandoned warehouse with chains hanging from the ceiling and slightly clanking into each other. Sorry, but I've never been quite sure how else to explain the noise. Anyways, that lasted for about 15 to 20 seconds, and then the call dropped. I called my uncle back and asked what that was. He was confused by my question because apparently the call dropped on his end about 2 minutes prior and there was nothing weird. It just went from us talking to a dropped call. So I wrote it off as nothing, proceeded with our conversation, and eventually hung up. About 2 months after this, my mom called me one day to check up on me. I didn't live with her, I lived with my grandmother. It was just a casual convo of us catching up. All of a sudden, I could no longer hear my mother. Transitioned back into the same noise that I described above with my uncle. Once again, this lasted about 15 to 20 seconds, then the call dropped. Called my mom back, asked if she heard anything. She said no and told me it was just silence on her end. Once again, I shrugged it off as bad service. At the time of these calls, I had a BlackBerry Curve with service provided by T-Mobile on my mother's plan. After this, it hadn't happened again for about a year, so I had forgotten about it. Now we're going to fast forward to about a year. I no longer have a BlackBerry Curve or T-Mobile service. I now have HTC Vivid and AT&T on my grandmother's plan. One night I'm having a few people over for some drinks when I get a call from my grandmother's girlfriend. Ground Zero says you mainly use software Maya and Render from Pixar. Oh, that's interesting. Or RenderMan from Pixar. I'm completely clueless when it comes to that stuff, but that sounds cool. Yeah. Do you have anything on your actual YouTube channel, Ground Zero, that I could check out to see what kind of animations you're putting out? Because that would be really neat. YouTube changed a lot of people's lives. I started my channel in my last year of high school and I didn't know what I wanted to do after. I'm so glad this worked out. Changed your life big time. That's awesome, Fortnite. Rare. And it does. It changes your life, and it's such a fulfilling experience. I was telling these guys I'm going to VidCon in Anaheim, California, July 9th through 14th. I don't know if you or anybody else are going to be there. That'd be dope to meet up and in that creator zone. And there's another creator, Mr. GM Danielson, in chat room, another amazing narrator of the crew we got going here with Gothic, and I don't know if Jensen is still here or not. Kashi still has a BlackBerry. One night I'm having a few people over for some drinks when I get a call from my girlfriend at the time. I step to the porch to light a cigarette and catch up with her for a second when this noise once again begins transitioning into the phone call. I'm slightly confused as I haven't had this happen in over a year. I now have a new phone with a new number and new service provider. Only this time I can almost swear I hear muffled voices in the background. So I decide to open the door to my house really quick and tell my friends to be quiet. I'm going to put my phone on speaker and see if they hear anything. I put the phone on speaker and the call instantly drops. They looked at me confused. I was a little annoyed, but it was quickly forgotten as drinks were in the mix. I call my girlfriend back, ask if she heard anything. She of course says no, and that the call just dropped on her end. This happened maybe 1 or 2 more times over the next year, but nothing crazy. Fast forward another year. I now have my own phone plan. I'm back on T-Mobile. I have a Samsung Galaxy S3. My grandmother is in the hospital with lung cancer. One day I leave the hospital after visiting her and decided to stop by my great-uncle Jack's house afterwards to give him an update. As I'm pulling into his driveway, I receive a call from my cousin, who's moved in with him, asking for an update and when I'll be home. Out of nowhere, this noise once again transitions into the phone call. I'm confused now. Different phone numbers, 3 phones later, different services, gaps in time. But this time I decide to really listen, and I catch something different. I catch a voice. Not just any voice. A deep, raspy, angry voice. And the first thing that I hear, what I believe I heard anyways. Oops. Dude, you ever... Sometimes I read these and they actually give me chills, which is kind of weird. Fortnite, you definitely come down and meet. That would be sick, dude. If you're in the Cali area, bruh. And the first thing that I hear, what I believe I heard anyway, was "I hate you." Whatever it was said it very slow and paused a bit after each word. Probably why it seemed so clear. I panicked and hung up the phone instantly. I called my cousin back and asked if he heard anything. He just said, "Ah man, the call just dropped. What are you talking about?" He's pretty close in age to me, so I was really hoping I wasn't alone on this one and we could relate. Now, I've had a fair share of stuff happen throughout my life, but never anything where it was angry or I felt threatened, so this one struck a bit different. Now, I believe in ghosts, very much so, but I should also state that I will always look at the logical side of something and try to figure out an explanation before I just jump straight to the conclusion that it had been a ghost. So once again, I'm left answerless after this phone call and chalk it up to the possibility that maybe I was just hearing stuff. A few days go by and my friend Joe and I leave the hospital together after visiting my grandma and head towards my great-uncle Jack's to give him his daily update. As I pull in the driveway, I receive a phone call from my mom asking how my grandmother is, her mother. I start to update her and maybe 30 seconds into the call, it happens again. But this time, whatever it is gets straight to the point. Same voice as the prior time, but this time more assertive, a bit louder, and a bit faster. The first thing I hear is "F you." Then I hear, "It's really dark here, and I'm coming for you so I can bring you back." So I quickly Whoopsie-daisies. I messed up this ghost's statements. Yeah, it's a weird thing, like, I don't know what it is. I start to notice that when I read the ghost stories, and I don't know if you guys notice this or not, but like, the tone that I take with it, it's sort of just like naturally just naturally starts to like come out of me as I go, but it's a lot darker and methodical and ominous, I guess, and to me at least when I hear it. And for some reason, as I'm reading like some ghost stuff, and like it's like I'm visualizing it in my head as I'm reading it, you know what I mean? And it just gives me the chills. It gives me the chills. So I quickly put my phone on speaker to see. Oh, oops. The first thing I hear is "F you." Then I hear, "It's really dark here, and I'm coming for you so I can bring you back." So I quickly put my phone on speaker to see if my friend can hear it or if the call is gonna just drop like the previous time I tried a few years prior. When it goes on speaker and clear as can be, you hear, "Coming for you, Brett." Instant chills. I hadn't stated above, but my name is Brett. The phone call ended after that. I looked straight into my friend's eyes. I asked, "Joe, did you hear that? If so, what did you hear?" He responded that he did hear it, and he heard it very clearly. He said, "I'm coming for you, Brett." So we sat there for a minute. We discussed it. He said he wasn't sure what was creepier, the voice and what it said, or the actual background noise itself. He expressed that he was sorry that he hadn't heard or believed me prior. I had explained it to him in the past, but he just chalked it up to static. But man, did it feel good to know I finally had someone else to hear it and know I wasn't crazy. After sitting there for a moment, I called my mom back and had to, of course, ask if she heard anything. She said no as always, just that the call had dropped and that was that. Some of those phone calls continued for a bit in the years to come, but not as frequent, and I always just hung up once I heard the strange noise start to transition into the call. Finally, it stopped in about 2015. Can't really say I was disappointed either, to be honest. It's now 2019. I've had Sprint since August. I have an iPhone XS and another new phone. It's been so long that I finally forgot about it until January. And that's when it happened again. I have no answers. The true answer to that is most likely that you want to avoid T-Mobile at all costs. Voodoo coming for you, Brett. We coming for you. We is the ghosts. We in your ear with T-Mobile. that whole story was just a commercial for Verizon. And I want to thank our sponsor, Verizon, who doesn't have a single ghost working for them. Hey Mia, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it. Phone plans in Canada are so, yeah, that's crazy. How expensive are they, Cashy? That's cray. See ya, sugars. Take her easy. Take her easy. Alright. We are oh so close. We're on... We got 3 more stories to go. This one's called 5 Tales of Shadow People. Dun dun dun. Fortnite says, anyways, bro, I'm gonna get some sleep playing your last video. I respect your grind and hopefully you make another alien counter video soon. Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. It was good to meet another creator here, and thanks so much for crashing the stream. And I commend you as well on a fellow grinder. Sounds weird, but yeah, I wish you the best with everything, man. Everybody go, if you're in the Fortnite, go subscribe to Fortnite Rare. Fortnite! I'm going night. 85 plus for a decent plan, 115 if you want more than 5 gigawatts. Jeez. Yeah, that's expensive. Can you get like a family plan or something? Alright, gotta lube my lips with the... Honestly, Aquifer should just send me just a big barrel full of lube for my lips. Nothing else, strictly lips. I can just shove my whole face in there. I have seen 5 shadow people since the summer of 2017, with a possible 6, but that story is 15 years old and I never actually saw the entity, only its eyes. I have seen many more unexplained shadows, but shadow people are something completely different. In my experience, they are tall, Vanta black, and almost twitchy in their movements, and I only ever get heavy oppressive feelings from them whenever one shows its face, or lack thereof, in my house. I document my paranormal experiences on a personal blog, but I keep the posts locked, and this is the first time I am sharing them with the rest of the internet outside of my friends list. August of 2017 is when I saw the first one. My mother and I, together, are amateur paranormal investigators, and while we were working with a local team during our training, the topic was brought up about the veil thinning. This was in the summer of 2017, during the months leading up to the last solar eclipse that was visible in the United States. The lead investigator told us that we would likely experience a higher volume of activity leading up to the eclipse with a sharp drop-off afterwards, and honestly, I believe that. I do live in a house with activity, and paranormal occurrences before the solar eclipses were fairly frequent, followed by sudden silence afterwards. One experience in particular has earned its spot as the scariest thing I have ever experienced, and I still have not told my brother that I saw this thing in his room. One day I will, but not so long as we live in this house. My brother is on several medications for mental illness, and I have taken responsibility for making sure he gets those myself for several reasons. And one morning I entered his room as I usually would to give him his pills for that day. He was still asleep in bed as usual, and he was not alone in his room. It wasn't standing directly over him. His bed at the time was pushed over against the wall, and it was smack in the center of the room several feet away. But I saw this pitch-black figure roughly 6 to 7 feet tall just standing there. It was solid black. Vanta black. Vanta black? What is Vanta black? I've never heard of Vanta black before. That sounds freaking cool, man. Oh, GM Dan says, curious, do you do that to cut down on mouth sounds? Wait, what do I do? Did I miss a previous message to give me some context here? Oh, do I lube my lips to cut back on mouth sounds? So, yeah, actually, I feel very, excited to answer this question for some reason. I feel like nobody's ever asked me, like, the little nuances of why I do things, but so I use this stuff called Aquifer. It's great for really anything. It literally, like, if I cut my hands working out or whatever, you put it on there and it like heals it like 5 times as fast as just anything else. But basically, it's primarily Vaseline in its components, and it's great for just any sort of normal lip balm because it actually lasts for a while, whereas like Burt's Bees kind of dries out really fast. But anyways, whenever my lips are lubed, so to speak, I actually find it way easier to articulate or enunciate my words. Like, my mouth is able to more freely move because whenever it starts to dry out, the lips, like my lips kind of like might catch on each other, or my teeth, and like something about lubing the lips with the Vaseline based Aquifer, it just allows it to kind of like more freely flow, and like the winds of narration, man. It's freaking cool. This video is not sponsored, by the way. Thank you, Kashi. I just really, really like this product. But they should sponsor me, send me a whole pool full of it. I'm gonna honestly just do my streams in just a giant like vat, as if though I'm just like a fetus floating in a. I'll just have like a snorkel, and hopefully you can still hear my voice. These nuts. 'Tis true. 'Tis true. What are my thoughts on the NBA Finals? To be honest, I had no idea it was the NBA Finals. I know Cassie's gonna hate me for that, but other than her mentioning about the Raptors, and then some guy at the gym like mentioning that it was, basketball time, like that stuff sneaks up on me really hard because I just don't care about basketball at all. I like slam ball. Like the ones with the trampolines, they need to bring that back. I would definitely watch Slam Ball. The Slam Ball Finals. I cover myself in the lube and become a slug. A slug is my, snail is my fursona, so. Dad is getting unsubbed. No. I said I like slam ball. It's like a transitionary sport in the NBA. Once they got me on slam ball, then I started following Vince Carter because he dunks like he's on a trampoline. And then, Space Jam 2. I don't know. Okay, was I? Left the room. I didn't come back for almost an hour to get my brothers. Oh, okay. He was still asleep in his bed, as is usual, but he was not alone in his room. I wasn't standing directly over him. His bed at the time was pushed over against the wall, and it was smack in the center of the room several feet. But I saw this pitch-black figure, roughly 6 to 7 feet tall, just standing there. It was solid black, Vanta black like I said before, and its head was shaking, twitching. I blinked and it was gone. I left the room and didn't come back for almost an hour to give my brother his medication. And that's not even where it ends, and why this experience has sat at the top of my scariest ever paranormal experiences, even though the last one I will share in this post could have easily taken that spot. For the rest of the day, the hallway connecting my room and my brother's room to the rest of the house was overcome with that oppressive feeling I have since come to attribute to us shadow people. I was in the kitchen making something to eat, and I could just feel eyes on me the entire time. It was eerie. I even had to I even had to psych myself up to leave my room to use the bathroom because that feeling was so heavy. But I hadn't told anyone about this at this point. My brother to this day still doesn't know about it, and I never shared it with my mom until the next morning. But that following morning, my mom told me that she had gotten the worst sleep of her life that night because of that heavy, oppressive feeling. She was almost certain that someone had been standing there watching her sleep. I just responded with, "It's funny you should say that because you'll never believe what happened to me yesterday." That bad feeling hung around the hallway for the rest of the second day before it finally dissipated. In April of 2018, I saw my second one. On that day, a tornado touched down in my town and then proceeded to turn the corner and rip up farmland at Tear the Barn. Okay. Oh yeah, how many people are in the chat right now? That's what I'm wondering. Tell you what. On that day, a tornado touched down in the town and then proceeded to turn the corner and rip up farmland and tear the barns to shreds. It touched down merely 50 feet from my house, in the parking lot of a local tourist attraction that sits on the other side of my house. I was not home when the storm hit. I was at the library with my family and the neighbor's daughter, listening to the news tell of a confirmed touchdown in our town. Once the tornado warning lifted, we hightailed it back home. Fortunately, we survived with minimal damage. We were missing a little bit of siding and I had to pull my trash cans out of the woods, and it knocked a piece of my fence down, but otherwise, we were unharmed. One neighbor had the roof ripped off of their shed like a sardine can, and there was a tree that had impaled itself through the roof of one of the buildings of the aforementioned tourist attraction, but other than that, a booth getting tossed into the air and destroyed, and some trees being knocked down, there was little damage in town. Until the tornado turned around the corner into farmland, there is still metal shrapnel embedded in the trees to this day. I can't say for sure that this next shadow person is related to this. I always found it suspicious that it happened the morning of the tornado, but it could honestly just have been a coincidence. But after a few hours before we left to the library, I saw a shadow person scurry down the hallway on all fours. It held that same, almost cartoonish twitchiness that the first one had, and it scurried fast, almost like a time-lapse at triple speed, and then it was gone. There was that heavy feeling, but it was fleeting and gone just as fast as the figure was. In June of 2018, I threw a bottle of shampoo at a shadow person. Our water heater had gone out, and for a bit until we brought it to our landlord's attention, we just made do with boiling water on the stove and filling the bathtub and taking baths. I was taking a bath one morning watching YouTube on my phone propped up on the toilet when I saw a black void bolt from behind the toilet and disappear behind the trash can on the other side of the bathroom. My first reaction was to throw the shampoo. The shampoo. Granzer, you were born in the chat. You were molded by it. Twerks in chat, twerks in Canadian. Just like twerking and say, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I was taking the bath with a shadow person. Do. Taking a bath with a shadow man. There's a man in my bathtub, he's made of shadows. I'm sorry, but it's weird. Shadow Fox Animations, peace out. I'm going to read this story with my mouth. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. I did not stay there long. Okay. I was taking a bath one morning, watching YouTube on my phone propped up on the toilet lid when I saw a black void bolt from behind the toilet and disappear behind the trash can on the other side of the bathroom. My first reaction was to throw the shampoo bottle at it, but it just bounced off of the bathroom door. I did not stay in there long enough for it to reappear. In September of 2018, I saw a shadow person number 4. At least I think it was a shadow person. It had the same solid Vanta Black composition, the same supernatural speed, but I never felt that heavy feeling. That was just weird. But I was in the kitchen, waiting for my food to finish cooking in the microwave and leaning against the counter and playing on my phone, when this pitch-black shadow just squeezes itself between myself and the counter, gets up in my face for all of a fraction of a second, and then slips back down and disappears. Certainly the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. Shadow person number 5, and second scariest of my life, happened just a few months ago at the beginning of January 2019. I have 3 dogs, and taking them outside is a challenge in itself during the day, but at night it's borderline dangerous. All 3 dogs are poorly behaved, one of whom is like a horse and the other 2 little dogs who like to get under everyone's feet, not to mention the risk of stepping in poop. It wasn't 100% dark outside yet. It was the final phase of twilight where everything was bathed in a dark blue. My dogs were doing their business when my littlest dog started barking his little head off at something across the yard. This is normal for him. He barks at absolutely everything, so normally I wouldn't have been fazed. But it was that heavy feeling that caught my attention, and as I turned to look in that direction, I saw a shadow person charging across the yard, right at me. It stood out like a twitchy, inky splotch in a vaguely human shape against the twilight, and I immediately turned tail and dragged the dogs, who had not finished their business, back inside. My mom was not home that night, and I immediately called her to tell what happened. She tried to tell me it was just an echo. She thinks everything is just an echo. This was 100% not an echo. Saw a shadow person. Twilight. Did someone say twilight? Beef stew. Can you do alien abduction stories? I believe I have some. If you can search on my channel, there's quite a few alien stuff on there. Maybe not a lot, but definitely worth checking out, man. 85 Baby Cake says, I have an odd story. I'm going to the place tomorrow to take the pictures so you can see how odd it is. Oh. Okay, yeah, definitely include those pictures in your, if you do a Reddit post and stuff. That'd be dope. Yeah, I think an echo, I think what they were referring to was like sort of a, does anyone know that word? Where it's like it's if someone does something, it leaves an imprint in time, and some people are kind of more sensitive to experiencing that instance again or something of that nature. I don't know. Maybe I should go back and record with... I'll wait for you guys to tell me what that is. And then I'll probably go back and... So, not a mirage, but it's like... It's kind of like a mirage, but it's like more paranormal oriented. One second. It's like an energy. Not a butterfly effect. It's sort of like the word. It's sort of similar to a word of like memory. Stigmata, not stigmata. 10 million views. Where do I find stories? Reddit. Got a person, one of my mods gets permission from Reddit posters to use their... Yeah, it's kind of like an imprint. There's another word for it. Like a phenomena of sorts. Like, yeah, sort of an energy that's like left behind. And yeah, like an energy haunting. Not a poltergeist. It's like, it's almost as if though what you're seeing isn't actually occur. Yeah, residual. There you go. Residual haunting or residual energy. That's what I'm gonna change out those words on that last one for that, because I feel like it would make more sense. She tries to tell me that it was a residual haunting. She thinks everything is just a residual. This was 100% not a residual haunting. DJ Nightshade with a 5 buckaroni says, last time I said, let's overthrow the government. We done that yet? I've been pretty lazy. No, I'm too lazy too, honestly. Whenever you get... Whenever you still have stuff like the internet, it's hard to get motivated to do anything transcendental. Yeah, like a resonance of sorts. Those are all good words. Those are all good words. Oh, mother. An echo. Yeah, echo is... But I think people... It's easy, like if you type in echo online, you're not going to know what an echo... Like whenever you describe it in a story, echo is kind of like... An echo? Like they think it's like a voice echo, but I think it's what they meant, or would be easier for the user who's never heard the term echo within the paranormal context to be easier to hear, like residual haunting, where they can look that up and, you know, find it. Alright, 2 more stories to go. We're oh so close. The dancing skeleton, yeah, is sweet. I love that guy. We had a name for him, but I forget what it was. Yeah, the Winnie Pooh voice. Yeah, I watched that Winnie Pooh meme last time. Herbert the Pervert is the skeleton's name. That's possible. We don't know Herbert's history, so. Oh, mother. My voice always cracks if I do it. I just been saying that lately when anything happens. Oh, mother. I'm so stuffed with fluff. I'm dummy thick. I'm dummy thick. One clap of my ass cheeks alerted the bees. Alerted the bees. Alright, man. Everybody's having shadow people experiences. The first encounter I saw the shadow person was when I was about 11 years old. I was on a camping trip with my cousins. In the early morning, everyone was still asleep except for me, and I was staring at the side of the tent when I could see a clear outline of a boy wearing a cap on the side of the tent, except instead of being like a normal shadow, it was a solid black It was a solid black? It was solid black in comparison of the shadows of the trees and other things casting over the tent. The boy then repeatedly walked back and forth past the tent. We were in the middle of nowhere, and I was scared considering I thought a complete stranger was pacing our tent. When everyone else woke up, we went outside of our tent and there was no one around. I told my cousins what had happened and they didn't believe me. Yet, it was like the boy followed me home because he would appear behind people when I was talking to them outside, in the doorway or walk along the fence line at random. His appearance wasn't ultimately creepy besides him appearing at random outside over the course of the year. The last time I saw the boy was when my friend and I had a sleepover and my mother was working, so we were going outside, not sleeping and messing around. We were in the front yard late at night when we felt like someone was watching us, so we got a torch and shined it around the yard, then down the street. No one was there, yet when we shined the torch over a power pole, we briefly saw a boy in a cap poking his head out from behind the pole, yet even when the light hit him, he was completely black. We shined the torch around the pole for a bit, yet didn't see anyone, so we went inside and locked the door. Nothing else occurred until I was around 14 and encountered the girl, who was ultimately more aggressive, creepier. The first time I met the girl, I was half asleep at a family friend's house. The family's friend had doors in most rooms except the makeshift guest room that they had curtains in the doorway for privacy instead of an actual door. Again, it was an early morning and the family friend's kids were running around making noise. I rolled onto my side to see the shadow of a very tall girl in a dress holding the curtain open, staring at me. I was annoyed and thought I was a resident of the family friend's house, so I said, "What do you want?" And then she immediately vanished and the curtain even dramatically flickered as if there was a sudden breeze. I went back to sleep. A few days later, again when I was sleeping, I could feel the blanket slowly dragging down my body. I assumed the blanket was falling off the bed, so I just felt around with my eyes closed and pulled the blanket up. Then the blanket aggressively whipped down to my ankles. I, still being half asleep, assumed the kids of the house were being little idiots and messing with me, so I pulled the blankets back up, wrapped it like a cocoon around me, and gripped onto the blanket at the top. I could feel the blanket really roughly and relentlessly getting tugged. And by this time I was so annoyed and just wanted to sleep, so I said, "Just take the blanket then," letting go of the blanket that basically flew into the air and landed in the entry point of the room. I sat up and realized, 1, there was no one else in the room since I would have heard them, and there was no signs of running or laughing from the kids. 2, the intensity of the blanket was pulled off of me, couldn't be done by a child, and was major overkill of blanket snatching. Despite not seeing anything, I was creeped out and ran down the hall into the living room where I stayed up until the rest of the night. Another encounter with the girl, and the more creepy ones, was when I was sleeping on the couch of my older sister's house. I woke up because I felt a big whoosh of air as if someone ran at mega speed past the couch. I laid there wondering what had just happened. Then I saw the clear shadow of a tall girl in a dress run really fast past the couch. By then, I was scared, so I didn't move, and this girl was basically running laps past this couch at super speed with a whoosh every time she passed. Mind you, this was a living room, so to even pick up a speed this girl was getting at in such a short length of area was supernatural to begin with. I was getting more and more spooked, so I decided to make a leap of faith and try to dart into my sister and her significant other's room, which meant I had to pass the area where the shadow person version of the Flash was sprinting. When I moved, the girl stopped, then walked around to the other end of the couch and stared at me. I was feeling bold enough to tell her to go away, so she came closer to me. I felt around for a cushion and threw it at her, which went straight through her and didn't do anything. She then basically walked up beside me and started leaning her face towards mine, so I covered my face with a blanket, started crying, then started saying the Lord's Prayer. I didn't move, and eventually I fell asleep until the morning. My sister told me in the morning if I kept running around at night, I can get out of her house. Oops, what was that? Oh, that's a nice sister. If you keep running around, you can get out of my house. Unsolved Mysteries, an EP on the Dogman. Oh, that would be interesting. Does the Dogman go whoosh? Oh yeah, make sure to like the stream, everybody. Maybe we can get some more people in here before the last store hay. Nat Hall, shout out to you, my friend. Go to get out of... Wait, where's this? Sister told me. My sister told me in the morning, if I kept running around at night, I can get out of her house. The girl then would appear in the corner of my room at night at random. I slept with a nightlight on until I was almost 20. The worst and last encounter was her in my family home. I had a bunk bed that was a double below and single at the top. I slept on the bottom bunk. One night I woke up to pitch-black feet climbing up the ladder of the bunk bed, and the weight form on the top bunk as if someone plopped down on it. I stared at the top bunk, not knowing what to do, when the entire bed frame started shaking and rocking, as if someone was up there having a seizure. I wasn't going to check it out. Then I started hearing a really harsh and rough breathing with something that almost sounded like growling, so I just started praying because I was too scared to leave the bed. I then slept on my floor of my mother's room for several days. The final time I saw what I assumed was a shadow person was when I was around 29. No, fuck, sorry. True stories of whooshing monsters. Whooshity whoosh. You can whoosh my feet. Whoosh me, boogeyman. The final time I saw what I assumed was a shadow person was when I was about 21 and I booked a hotel room with a female cousin. We were going to an event in a city area. My cousin got trashed and I wasn't that interested in drinking. We got back to the hotel and my cousin went straight to sleep. My cousin was laying there sleep-talking and I was playing on my phone. The beds were separated like typical hotel beds with a bedside cupboard in between. I looked up and a tall shadow of a man was standing over my cousin. He simply appeared from nowhere and I was trying to get my cousin to wake up. The man immediately whipped his head to me. Because it was a shadow, it had no facial features, yet it was staring directly at me. He then basically zoomed towards my bed, which I jumped off and switched the overhead light on, and he vanished. My cousin was too drunk to notice, and I kept the lights on all night. Joel's Warren says, grabbing headphones, we're gonna be going for a drive in the rain while listening. Alright. Well, I hope you can get situated, because I only have one more short story before we're done. And I'm getting tired. Miss Molly says, got new boots in the mail today for Tank Girl cosplay. Woot. Woot woot woot. Woot 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 woot. Tank Girl? What's Tank Girl from? Is that an anime? These boots were made for tanking. That's just what they'll do. These boots are gonna cosplay all over you. Alright, my grandmother's house is haunted. Is the name of the final story of the night, guys. We are about at 350 concurrent viewers. And I want to thank you guys all for being here. Oh, Tank Girl's a comic. Interesting. I have to check that out. Does she literally just form into a tank and just run stuff over? Then made into a movie in 1995. Okay. Leslie Palacios. Did I pronounce that right? Ghost Friends. Shout out to you. A lot of people want shout outs tonight. Shout out to Mr. Krabs. So it started with this little cow thing my grandma got from her client. My great-grandma. Her sister. I can't remember. Oh god. This is starting out great. So it started out with this little cow thing my grandma got from her client. But she comes home with this cow that's like a little motion detector. Every time anything moved in front of it, it would moo. You can see where I'm going with this, I'm sure. She set it on a shelf that's right next to the dining room table. Every time I was home alone and in the living room, that thing would go off non-stop periodically. I dismissed it, thinking it was just a broken toy, so I took the batteries out of it. Problem solved. Now, this next event happened late at night. I'm going to preface this by letting you know that this old TV on the dresser right in front of my bed. Wait, what? Okay, this next event happened late at night. I'm going to preface this by letting you know there is this old TV on the dresser right in front of the bed. One of those old blocky TVs that the static screens... Wait, that the static? Oh, that have the static screen. Okay. Oh, my brain is complete shmushy. Mushy gushy poosh. One of those old blocky TVs that have the static screens when nothing is being picked up by the antenna. So I was in my room, messing around on my phone, and then the TV just turns on out of nowhere with nothing but the static. Cool, that's weird, I'll just turn it off. Rinse and repeat about 3 more times. Being thoroughly spooked, I unplug the thing and wake my grandma up and let her know what just happened. She brushes it off, saying it's the electrical. I don't know enough about electrical at the time to argue with that, and I would be fine with that explanation if my grandma didn't do what I'm about to tell you. I kid you not. She grabs her Bible, starts spewing out some Spanish, and draws a cross on the dust on the mirror by my bed. I knew I was screwed. I can't remember if this next event happened before or after the last one, but it wasn't a long time between. It's late at night. The lights are off. I'm lying in bed ready for some sleep. As I'm dozing off, I start to hear tapping, literally like someone's tapping on the ceiling. I turn the light on and it stops. I wait a few minutes to see if it'll happen again. Nothing. I turn the lights off and lay back down. After a couple of minutes, the tapping continues. I turn the lights on again and it stops. I play this game a couple of more times before I say, forget it. I'm too tired for this. Tap away, ghost. Those were my smaller, easily dismissible experiences. I thought they were creepy, but they could easily be anything other than the paranormal. So I forget about it after a while and just moved on with life. It wasn't until this next experience that I truly believed there was something other than my grandma and I in the house. It was daytime and I was completely alone in the house. I was playing the piano in the living room, just vibing, and then I start to hear voices. I immediately stop playing and try and hear where the voices are coming from and what they are saying. As I focused on the voices, I realized it was the radio in my grandmother's room. I thought it was weird as the radio came on Oops, okay. Oh my gosh, Eric. It's funny, Eric, whenever the stream started, I actually thought of you. I was like, I haven't seen Eric Lane in a long time in this chat. And there, the legend himself is, with the $2 dono. Thank you so much, Eric. It's good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. I feel bad that you're probably showing up right as the stream is definitely on the tail end here, the last story in the last paragraph. But welcome, good to see you again. Hope the girlfriend hunt has gone well, and you are happily married and have 30 kids. I thought it was weird that her radio came on randomly like that, but whatever. Maybe it is electrical. I approached her room really slowly because my gut is just screaming that this doesn't feel right. As soon as I step in her room, the radio shuts off really suddenly, and this sense of dread just overwhelms me. At this point, I literally say screw this and bolted to the door leading into the garage. As I open the door, I turn back just to take a look, and I see my grandmother's recliner that's in the middle of the living room rocking violently. I slam the door, open the garage, hop in my car, and skedaddled right out of there. Never in my life have I, as a grown man, been so terrified. Phoenix. Is it hot in Phoenix? I imagine so. Well, guys, we have reached the end of this stream featuring Let's Read the Narrator. And now, I'm going to read my outro. And since you amazing people have stuck with me this long time, I would like, I would like you to come up with what I shall say in the outro, as some of you may be familiar with. That will be tacked on at the end, and it'll be a little nudge to those of you who were here when you listen to the video come out tomorrow around 7. Well, I guess today around 7 now. It's almost 1. Oh my god, it is 1. And bid us adieu. I could say wiener, that's true. Thank you, parrot. Patriot. Patriot. The Patriot Parrot. It's been cool as of late. Thanks, Lee Reed. Thanks for the shout out. Absolutely. Thanks for hanging. Good night and have a good penis. Thank you, Patriot. I could say that. That would most certainly stir up some emotions in the people. My dog just passed gas. That would be good. Buttersock cult say, no matter how you slice it, it's still baloney. That actually is perfect. I'll say that. Thank you. 13 past midnight. Oh yeah, 13. You do narrations and stuff as well, correct? Me and Eric are off to conquer the paranormal. We are quite the tandem, Eric. We are quite the tandem. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrators. All the flirtation. I should just end it there, and that's all I have at the end. That'd be funny. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, or Let's Read Official, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And join my Discord to interact with me and other listeners directly. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt. Links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends. And remember... I don't remember what you were gonna say. I don't remember. And remember that I don't remember. Oh yeah, no matter how you slice it, it's still baloney. Okay. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, no matter how you slice it, it's still baloney. That can be applied in so many fashions. Burger King foot lettuce. I sound so humble, it's humbling. It's funny. I'm just a humble bundle. How many? Yeah, how many takes? I got about 68 takes on here, which will go swimmingly. Go swimmingly when I'm editing this for you all. But guys, thanks for chilling like a villain with me, helping me get through this recording process. It can be quite lonely in this room at times when I don't have 350 people to talk to. Usually I only have the shadow people to talk to. But this is great. I'm stoked. True wisdom from the baloney gods, yeah. Yeah, that was a good 3 hours. Good solid 3. But yeah, guys, definitely thank you for hanging out. Thank you to everyone who donated and just being here and all the positive support. You're such an awesome community. If you want to keep this vibe going, head over to the Discord, where great people such as Miss Molly and Kashi and various others are chilling in there to guide you to some amazing new friends, and potentially might catch me in the voice chat sometime, or trolling in the meme section. You never know. And yeah, this video will come out tomorrow, which is a Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is, what time is that on the West Coast? It's 3 hours behind, so that's 4 p.m. over on the West Coast. I wonder if I should start releasing at like 9 p.m. People are used to 7 p.m. now, makes sense. But yeah. The worst thing was the Dementors. I feel like I said that in a stream, or I said that in an end card one time, but I don't accept Joel as your God and Savior. Not quite. Might need some saving here. But I love you guys, and thank you so much for being positive and great, and I hope you continue to have an amazing night as well. And I'm going to keep making these videos into infinity and beyond, and chitty chat with you guys later. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Eat, skeet, and boogie, my guy.